Welcome to the skating session. I'm Tony Wheeler.
Hey, and I'm Thomas Vu.
We are both longtime fans of the sport. We've known each other for 25 years. I've done blogs, I've done official websites, I've helped skaters cut music, I've helped skaters with IJS. I've done a little bit of everything. I attended the World Championships. This is my first one. So all week we're discussing the events. This is our
Right.
third video. We're going to go over the men's competition and moving forward, what rules we think need to be changed, how the sport can become better.
Yep, exactly. And like I've been telling a lot of folks, I'm just a nerd with a lot of opinions. So with that, let's just
All of
start
us.
from there. Yeah, a lot of them, right? And they're good ones, I hope. Um, yeah. So Ilya, that was just. I was really glad that I got to see that again, just to see that how dominant he is in person. I'm not sure what it was like for you, but I know there's a question of if he could do the quad axle, and I remember like before there was all this excitement, like the first time he did it at Skate America, it was a surprise because I know that even his team didn't want him to do it, and then when he did it here, it was just like, yep, there it is, and it almost is like I was expecting it to happen, and I was expecting it to be clean. He has just really set up this sense of greatness and security, and the fact that he's going to go out there and perform. It's almost like I have forgotten that like every year he tends to bomb a program, and I just forgot all about that. Mhm.
I think that's another thing. It's unfortunate for him, I guess for me, because I always expect him to land all the jumps. So
Right.
to me, it's not like I don't get that like urge of being on the edge of my seat and oh, is he going to
Yeah.
do it or not? I always assume he's going to land all the quads and they're going to be done very well. Uh, let's focus on for the short program. I think this is the best competitive program that he's done. I think you can tell that he really likes the music. He when he right before he does his step sequence, you can see he's like mouthing the words. He
Yeah.
gets into it every single time, and you can tell he really enjoys it. I would guess I'm pretty sure he's the one who picked that music, as opposed to some of the other programs where it's just given to him. I think that program shows off his skating competitively the best that it ever has. I I think that his components are deservedly very strong in that program. Um, he skated very, very well here in the short. We go to the free skate, and I'm going to talk about the exhibition first because I want to go back to the free skate when I talk about the
Yeah.
exhibition. His exhibition was one of the most beautiful programs I've ever seen. Truly, it didn't have anything to do with the emotion that was, I mean, the emotion was another layer of it, but the program was choreographed so well and it had so many beautiful held moments and his quality of skating was suddenly, it went from very good to like outstanding. And I think a lot of people were very surprised by it, myself included. So knowing that that's the case, we go back to the free skate where he's really just chasing the quads for the majority of the program.
Yeah.
It's not that he telegraphs. It's not that he has questionable technique that's making him break the program a lot. But the fact of the matter is he is doing all these quads. There's really no program for the majority of it. You can say when the choreographic sequence comes in, it saves him, but it saves a lot of skaters to show a little bit of personality finally. Um, so once again, I'm knowing that he can do this in the exhibition and then seeing what he did at the free skate, I think it's more of a case of the rules maybe need to be changed a little bit. And again, this at the end of our video, we're going to talk about what we think needs to be changed. But I just felt like the short program was amazing. The free skate was just there. I mean, it was exciting that he skated well at home, but it was really just there. And then you have this exhibition that was wonderful. What did you think?
Yeah, I'll talk about it like I guess in kind of like a few different frames. Yeah, with the short program, I really enjoyed it too. That really is where he's establishing that strength. I'm not saying that like he's gonna always have this huge lead going into it just by the nature of there not being a lot of jump elements that he can gain on. But it's going to be that strength if he's clean, just by the virtue of being able to do a quad flip and a quad lutz in a short program.
And maybe
And
a
then even then
quadruple
too.
one day, like he
Right,
might.
if they allow him to do the quad axle as well, yeah, right. If they add that, and maybe if someone else starts landing it, they will, or they'll do him a favor like they did with Mao and just add it anyway. We'll see. I agree with you though with the long program. With a short program in general, they tend to be formulaic, but there's a lot more breathing room, right? Because a long program, what do we have? Like another minute and 20 seconds or a minute 10 seconds. Yeah, you're expected to do four more jumping passes. And if it's Ilia, he's doing four more quads and he's setting up four more quads, which is just literally having to build up that speed from one end of the rink to then execute on the other end. And you're seeing that he has to take that time. It does feel like back and forth. He's doing a few moves in the field here and there, flourishes, but it's all 2 foot skating. It's all just kind of, I hit this one beat. That was my interpretation for this 20 seconds. Jump.
Yeah.
And I do like the long program only in a weird campy way of like, oh, here he is. I think he picked the music, honestly. Like it
Yeah,
feels
I'm pretty
that.
sure.
It feels super weird. It feels him. It feels like, yeah, I'm gonna be a vampire. It's almost kind of like 15 years ago where everything was like, oh, a vampire, let's add one.
Yeah.
Um, but I didn't actually see the exhibition. I didn't watch the tribute, and I just didn't get around to it yet.
Hmm.
So when you mentioned it, I watched the video you posted.
Hmm.
It was like this feeling, right? This feeling of like I don't know what to say. I didn't realize this was what Ilya was capable of. I
Right.
didn't realize that he could feel this depth of emotion, and you know, it's one of those things in life to where, the harder life is, the easier it can be for you to truly express these
Right.
kind of intense feelings, right? And maybe a lot of this tragedy really opened up this level of emotion for him. Um, I hope he brings this something like this next year,
Mhm.
especially in the short program, to where he could truly have time for this. And I know he uses, Papadakis and Cicerone's music to build a home and everything. And I'm not trying to say there's a direct comparison, but he understands those feelings.
Yeah.
And I feel like when Papadakis and Cicerone came out, that's what they were bringing to the table with Ice Dance. That real intensity, that introverted, feeling, that emotion, that's something to where even if you're just deeply feeling it on the inside, everyone can see it, and somehow you're being introverted yet expressing to everybody.
Right.
And he had that, and I got that sense. I got that sense of longing for some stability. I got that sense of longing for a place to be, or even this idea that like you wish other folks could come home to their home. All these different things and emotions. I could go on and on. I'm really literally feeling chills just thinking about watching it right now. It makes me want to go watch it right now.
Yeah.
And I kind of want to cry a little bit. I don't even. It's hard to put into words. But yeah,
So he
I'm gonna cry.
easily wins this competition. I mean, it
Right.
was not a question. It was close in the
Hmm.
program, obviously, but he has this massive uh, cushion on all the other skaters in the free skate. Um, my biggest thing with him is just the rules probably need to be adjusted so that there's not such a
They do.
match in the free skate. We'll get to it later. So let's talk about Mikhail Shidorov. He started his movement. I remember at the French Grand Prix, he skated there. He did a triple axel quad toe, I think, one or the other. I think it was the quad toe that he did first. But anyways, he's jumping around the ice, landing all these jumps, and I thought somewhere the judges misidentified an element or they called it a quad, a triple or something. And I'm frantically DMing him right after he skated. And I'm like, you need to go look at your protocol. I think they didn't give you credit. Like I was so that somewhere he lost points and he ended up being off the podium because of this. Anyways, it was I think it was a few harsh, maybe like a cue or under or edge or something. Something was called on him. Anyways, the results made sense. But since that point, he's been building and building and building. He made it to the Grand Prix final after Adam withdrew. He was good there. Four continents, really good. Now Worlds, I mean, talk about a skater. He has Alexei Armanov as his coach, who was a very flashy skater, but he was a little bit of a technician too, I would say. And Shidorov has some of the most beautiful, easy, effortless jumps. I mean, triple axel quad to, or quad salchow combination, massive, like just massive. Everything he did was massive. Um, Unfortunately, another case of there's not really a program there. The free skate is just so weird that you want to like it because it just makes
Okay.
no
Yeah, I
sense.
love the free skate
Yeah,
because it's so weird. I know I
yeah,
said that to you before, but
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I don't know. I will say, it looks to me like he's really working hard on at least developing maybe the second mark a little bit. He works on, I see quite a few clips of him doing ballet, and He does have a personality. It's just I
Yeah.
think in competition right now, it's maybe just focusing on those big jumps. Personally, I'm not sure why he didn't try triple axel quad toe and triple axel half loop quad salchow because that would be within the rules. Um, it's very ambitious to begin with, but like both combinations look very strong.
I remember you just saying just about Ilya how you feel so secure watching him. You just expect him to succeed.
Yeah.
He's going to land all of his jumps. You don't feel that nervous tension before he skates. I feel the same thing with Shidorov because his technique is just so good. It's so secure. His jumps are so big. It's very rare that you even see a questionable like landing that you would want to review.
Yeah.
Um, and he's someone too with all the pieces. He doesn't have that emotional connection to what he's skating to, but his skating skills are good. His extension is actually pretty good when he's actually trying and focusing on it. He doesn't have terrible posture. I think he knows how to hit the beats. He can hear the music. He just doesn't know that little extra step of having it, flow through him that you would see, maybe in like a few years, I hope. But he was a breath of fresh air for me, honestly. Like it's one of those things to where in men's skating there's a lot of dodgy jump technique going around,
Yeah.
and we mention it a lot with the women, but the men seem to be on top of it a little more sometimes. But he doesn't have any of that. There's no flaws. It's like he and Ilya are kind of at the top with that. I would say Kagayyama too. He's just not consistent yet, but I'm just not worried. It's just with that there's so much enjoyment, and I can't wait till he adds that extra step. I'm really all for it. And when you mentioned the triple axel quad toe, he's done it twice this season, right? At the two of the Grand Prix.
Thanks for
And you can see to where he can add that here. It's really easy, because then he can just repeat one of the he can repeat the triple axel instead of a triple Lutz, but that'd be the only
Yeah.
difference. And
Yeah.
maybe he doesn't see with his jump layout whether or not those like two-ish points are really worth it. But um I don't know what to say. Like, I was a really big fan. I remember talking to Paulina. Paulina's a big fan of his too. And I think mostly because of the jumps, you could see that like she was just so in awe of just how great his technique was and how she wasn't questioning all of his edges.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're the same way, We're like, well, that was good. Um, he just was a breath of fresh air. He really was. I mean, I think a lot of people expected that he would be challenging for the podium. Uh,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
100%. Because especially with his performance at Four Continents, how could you not think that? And considering the men's field
yeah,
is a bit of a mess at times.
yeah. And the thing that just stood out for me is he is truly surprised by all of this. You watched him in the
I
leader,
know.
and he was genuinely excited. And then when he ended up going ahead of Yuma, he was, you could see on his face, he was just shocked. Like he was like, "What is happening?" So I hope he keeps that innocence and that excitement of
Right.
trying to get better and better. And I think he really appreciates the sport. I know he puts a lot into it, just not all there yet, but it's still all the same exciting. And now he has a world silver medal, and now he's setting himself up to be a favorite for the podium at the Olympics. Perfect timing.
Honestly, yeah, like he's definitely there, I would say, as one of the favorites, just purely based on his technical content and consistency from Four Continents to Worlds. I would say Four Continents officially made me a fan. That long program, which again, I know you were like, this makes no sense. And I'm like, I love how little
Of
sense it
course, it
makes.
makes
I,
no
I
sense.
love the music edit.
Yeah.
It's like a refined version of, I guess, old school Russian nonsensical music edits.
When it just like all they just
Yeah,
picked.
when it's all just kind of blended, but he found
Right.
a way to blend these, and to me, it made sense. And if he were to add that extra performance quality, God, I could see myself going back to watch this program again and again. Yeah.
All he needed is like a mid-program dance break to some disco music or something, and then he'd have the full circle of what we used to see with the Russians in the 80s. So, all right, let's
Right, right,
let's
right.
talk.
Yeah.
Let's talk now. I'm just going to probably gush endlessly, but Yuma Kagiyama is my favorite skater of all time. I
Same.
really I can say it pretty comfortably. I think he is the greatest fundamentalist technician maybe we've ever seen. He has almost all of the qualities that we like for the Japanese skaters just intensified to the highest level. The distance and the height he gets on his jumps, the knee, we know the Japanese skaters have these deep knee landings. This is just to another level. The way he can use his entire body on his step sequences. The spins are very good. Everything about his skating, there's not really like a massive flaw to him. I
Right.
I think maybe, he's been around now for an entire Olympic cycle on the senior level. Can he push presentation wise even a little bit further? Probably yes. But as far as the beauty of the programs, I don't even care what music he's skating to because he skated to some music. I'm like, I don't care about this. But especially Michael
Right.
Bublé in the last Olympics, like that is on my top of my do not skate to music list. And I actually really enjoyed the program just because of the skating.
Sure.
Here, short program put him right in contention with Ilia, which I think in a fair world it really should because his PCS should be higher. That skating skill,
Right.
if I've ever seen a 10.0 in my life, that should potentially be thrown out to him. Uh, Free skate, obviously, I think he was 10th in the free. Just not a good skate from the start. He doubled the flip. And then things started to go wrong for him. Didn't really lose the performance, I would say. But very disappointing for him all the same, although he still did end up on the podium. Do you think that was fair? And also, I want to hear you gush about his skating a little bit.
I'll gush first and then talk about that. No, oh my God. So like I'm right there with you. He's one of my favorite skaters ever. I remember still watching it. The first time I saw Rain in Your Black Eyes, that program, I just started crying. Just look at that. This is the beauty of everything, especially when he gets to that step sequence
Yeah.
and you see how deep those edges are, those great curves where he's just rising and falling into them. It's beautiful to see. I felt very similarly watching his practice, even just seeing him practice his step sequence was just like no music, and I'm just sitting here being like, oh my God, I'm feeling chills. It's just so beautiful to see. And I guess I kind of see it in like a mathy way where I love to see those curves and those shapes, and he's just giving that to you. If you could just draw his like patterns that he's skating in his programs, it would be amazing. And then in terms of the placement, it's definitely fair just because of the short program. He had a huge lead in the short program. There's an argument there, even if he had only a quad toe and saw cow for first. If I'm just looking at everything, I'd put him first, right? Just
Element by element,
because,
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, just purely because you're like Ilya wins on the two jumping passes, and that's about it.
Yeah. And
The
the
one thing I
PCS,
would, right. And PCS, Kagayyama should be winning every single category, honestly, in that short program. I haven't looked at it judge by judge, but I would want to see all ones. PCS, all ones. It's an easy to me choice, just considering his amazing skating skills. There's no one in comparison right now in the world, like at all.
yeah.
The fact that he has that just innate musicality. And I see that, his team seems to be going for softer pieces now to where he can interpret. But I honestly wish like last year, or like, sorry, next year, just like the last Olympics, he goes for big music, like
Mhm.
Gladiator again.
Yeah.
I still think about the moment in Gladiator where it's toward the end of the program and he just barrels down the end of the rink and just does a triple axel.
Yeah, I think about that too. That was a big
Yeah.
moment. Yeah.
And it's just amazing, right? When the program's going so well, he hits that, it just creates that, right? And then when I think about the PCS he was getting during the Olympics, all of it justified. I think there were some judges giving him one in PCS in the short,
Mhm.
justified to me. And even again, the long program here, even if it wasn't great, silver, I mean, no, bronze, it makes sense to me. Just
Yeah.
because who was fourth?
Adam.
Adam.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like Adam had a great short program. He kind of got really generous marks, in my opinion, in the short program. And then even some of the PCS in the long was,
Mhm.
I like the program.
Mhm.
It has almost no content in it. So
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
PCS for like the long program was a little
let's go.
wild
Let's
for
go into
Adam
Adam.
anyway.
So I think he
Yeah.
was a big question mark coming into this. He had the injury
Always
here.
coming into
Yeah,
any
I mean,
event,
yeah, yeah.
honestly.
But
Yeah.
he did at Europeans. He was able to stay on the podium. Looked like in practice he was doing well. I think I saw a practice clip from Skating Club of Boston just before Worlds where he was landing quad flip.
Mm,
I'm not sure if that's accurate. I think I saw it at some point. Uh, so yeah, I think it's all there. I don't know how much this lingering injury, if he is still slightly injured or whatever. He started the season off a mess, and when I tell you, I don't know if you watched it, but he did this Gangster's Paradise for short program. He had two short programs. I love Adam's skating. I think he brings such an like this different approach and this kind of fresh look to the ice. But this program was one of the worst programs I've ever seen. It was so bad. I think the PCS should have been horrible. It was not great, but we never saw it again after that. So I guess that's the positive part of this. Um, okay, so the free skate to Dune, and we're sitting by all the legends, and I told them all, I'm like, he's going to lay down on the ice for 10 or 15 seconds, and he's going to basically die and come back to life. And they're all watching, very intently to watch this. And Paulina Edmonds was sitting basically right next to me, one seat over. She was all for the laying down on the ice and dying. She's
Yeah.
such a massive fan. I think it does in a weird way because I want the skaters to fill up the program with skating and show off their skills. I liked it. I liked it too. I didn't mind it. It was something different.
It's the
Um,
storytelling. It really is. It fits with the story he's telling. That's when he becomes what did Smart and Kevin? Oh no, I have some weird effects happening in the
oh
background, which I
no.
did not mean to happen. The Lisa Nagayib, right? He drinks the poison, he comes back, he survives it, and there he is, right? He has this connection, whatever. It works for me, and
Yeah.
it works in the program. And it's not like other skaters don't do this anyway. He's just
Yeah,
actually
I mean,
literally lying down as opposed to just standing around and
right,
posing for like 10
right.
seconds.
Or
Right.
arm movements or something, or
Right. Or just softly just pretending like I'm interpreting the music, but I'm actually just standing still.
right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he finishes fourth. Good for him. I'm sure he wanted to climb back up to
I'm,
the podium again, but I,
yeah, but honestly, like just considering his history and how his technique is so dodgy, I've called it prayer based
yeah,
before, but
that
it really
triple
is.
axel. I mean, my God, like for as decent as some of his other jumps seem to be, I mean, in the air they look all right, and then whatever happens on the landing is one thing, but the triple axel really kind of goes up
Right.
with a prayer that he's going to come down correctly. Um,
Yeah, one of the people sitting around us very much just like every time you have to pray. Yeah.
yeah.
In practice though they were good. It's not like his triple axel's ever great. It's, I would say on a best day it's like a +2. And I didn't see him miss any in the practice and they
Mhm.
were landed well for him, but
Mhm.
totally off in the long program, like so bad
Yeah.
off. And I always wonder what that is for him, but I
Time.
think it's
I
just
don't know.
time. It's always so for every one of his jumps. He mistimes things when he
Yeah.
has nerves. Yeah.
So fourth place for him, fifth place his country mate Kevin Aymoz.
Oh
Uh,
man.
I think the basic summary of Aymoz is he either just needs to skate in the U.S. all the time, or he needs me to be at the competition. Skate America was truly, I think, he's had some really standout skates, but I'm just going to talk about Skate America for a minute. He in practice was not jumping at all. I mean, I didn't see him practice really any triples, and if he did, it wouldn't
Wow.
go so well, and then he would go stand by the boards. And this is coming back from a disastrous season last year, so it's like, all right, is he just here to finish last place again, and how bad is it going to be? And then all of a sudden, he skates this clean short program. Uh, he scores very well and he's in contention for a medal. And then I truly think that free skate is the skate of his life there. So it sets himself up for a good season. He gets to the Grand Prix final, not so good there, not so good at Europeans. I think 22nd was where he ended up. Here, short program again goes very, very well. I don't know how he pulled off the quad toe, triple toe, but he did it.
Was
He
he
went
doing
back.
it in practice? Like how was it looking
I don't remember
before
that.
the short?
I saw a video from the practice rink that we were not allowed to be in, and I saw him doing quad salchow, which was surprising, because it wasn't in the program. I don't know if potentially he's working to get it back in the program next year, but so his practices were okay. I would say they were not like on a level of Skate America where he wasn't doing anything. At least he was going for things. But on a personal note, I'm really happy he went back to the short program that he had last year for this
Yeah.
competition. I think that maybe is quite possibly. I mean, as far as short programs go, it's my favorite program of his. I think it's really, really beautiful, and I think it's skated well, like he did. The PCS is very, very, very deserved, and it's not something where the judges really have to consider. They just give it because it's a good program. Sometimes I feel like the judges are very, should we give a 9 for this one? Truly, like he is one of the most expressive skaters, and
Right.
it should not be a question. But with this program, I feel like it's easy to give it. The free skate was tight. I would say that he got through it, but you could see, I think the first four jumping elements were all very tight I mean, he got through them, but both toe loops were tight. The Lutz was tight. The first axle, I think he did well, but then in the sequence, the double axle was a little shaky. Anyways, he got into the program more. I think it's a really good program. He was very content with his fifth place finish. France now has 3 spots for the Worlds. They have a chance to get 3 spots for the Olympics. They're besides the US and Japan, they're the only other ones.
Right.
Very
But
happy, you know.
yeah. But unlike the US and Japan, did they really have someone to fill that third spot and could qualify for it,
They
And
could. I mean, I think
could, right?
yeah,
It's a coin toss,
yeah,
100% for me.
yeah. Yeah, one of the two, Pito or Economides, one of them hopefully kind of steps it up and or somebody else. They have some other skaters, junior coming into senior that are decent. Hopefully, someone steps it up and they send the right person to
Yeah.
China and they get that spot.
Oh, yeah. Same thing. It's like you were talking about it's one of your favorite programs, and for me, Kevin's one of those skaters to where it's hard to pick one because when he skates well, it's almost like it's a recency bias. Whenever he skates well, I always think that's my favorite program.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
It
absolutely.
really is,
Yeah.
because he has such a great just career of great programs,
Mhm.
and it really all hinges on whether or not he performs well. I would agree with you. The short program was great, and I remember you talking about Malinin and how you just expect him to perform. You don't get that kind of buildup of anxiety and then release. With Kevin, that's always the case. You're always building up this anxiety. You're always building up this internal like,
Everyone's pulling their hair out in this.
everyone's pulling in the stands, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
everyone's kind of like, freaking out, but hoping
yeah,
for the
yeah,
best. But
yeah.
then when he performs well, that tension just releases and it just gives you this feeling when he's done is just
Yeah.
so different with Kevin because he's putting all this emotion into it. He takes you on that journey, and then he just almost like it's like you didn't need to feel all this tension for me today. I'm
Yeah,
going to release
exactly.
it
Like
from
I
you and
did it,
spare you. Here's
Yeah,
this joy
yeah, yeah.
instead. Yeah. But long program. It was like you're saying. It was a very get it done mentality. Um, he wasn't the cleanest a lot, and then I think he leaves out the second quad, right?
No, he did. He did the second quad.
Oh, he did. Oh,
They were
that's
both
right. Right. The
tight. Yeah, they
sequence
were
is
both.
weird. The triple toe, triple sock cow. But
Yeah.
I think to myself like if he was at his best, he got that. If he had great landings on everything, got that GOE up higher on some of these, because he left about like 8, 9 points on the
He
table
was
in just
pushing for
GOE.
bronze if he would have
He
landed.
really was right,
Yeah,
and that this could have been his moment.
yeah.
And I wonder, hopefully that doesn't freak him out.
No, 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 no. I think
Yeah,
he knows. I think he understands that if he has another competition similar to Skate America, and even then, he could have upped the points somewhere or somehow. I think he knows he could be in contention. Speaking of which, really quick, I just thought of something. I talked with him at Skate America about his program layout, and I was just curious about why he's still doing a triple flip when the triple flip almost always gets the full edge call. It gets a reduction in base value. It now gets negative GOE. So he's losing 3 or 4 points realistically every single time he does this jump. His team in the French Federation should 100% realize he can do a triple loop that has these 3 turns into it, and he does it like it's nothing. Replace that jump, get +2, +3, even +4 maybe for this jump, and then you're really coming away with 3 or 4 more points. Here, that I think that was enough on its own that he would have at least moved up to fourth. It's just like points being thrown away, and he's not the only skater that does it, and he's not.
right.
It's not the only team that's making these logistical kind of questionable decisions, but it's something that if he's listening, if anybody's listening, this needs to be something that gets changed. It just makes
I
no sense.
I've been complaining about skaters doing this since like God, mid 2010s, like when Gracie was changed from triple loop to triple flip
The
in the
flip,
short,
yeah,
always on an outside edge, or she doubled it
yep,
and just never went back to the loop. And I still remember at 2016 Worlds, me being like, oh no, I just could feel a double coming and she lands it.
yeah,
But to me, it's clearly on the wrong edge. But
yeah.
I think the panel,
The other way,
looked the other way a little
yeah,
bit.
yeah.
But skaters are still doing it. It makes sense that it's, someone else giving this bad advice instead of it coming internally from the team because they know how they skate. They know their own flaws, I would like to think. They look at their protocols all the time after a competition. They have to see they're always getting an exclamation or an E. It's just too risky. And like you're saying, this could have been fourth place as opposed to fifth if he just did a loop as opposed to a flip.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Easy.
I find it interesting. I mean, I don't know. The information is there for everybody to see. Yeah, just take that information and make the best of what you have in your program. Okay, so he was fifth. Shun Sato finishing behind them. I guess the most memorable moment for me of his, unfortunately, in the short program, there was something on the ice, and there was an entire
Yeah.
corner of the rink of people screaming for the first 15 or 20 seconds of the program for him to stop, for the referee to blow the whistle for whatever. And he just skated right around that corner and kept going, and nobody said anything. And he didn't get distracted, but I would have been totally, totally thrown
Were
off.
you watching the ref and like the officials just kind of like
No, because
observing all this?
it
I
was
was.
hard for us. Oh, you were? Okay.
Oh, I was. Yeah, I was looking at them. I was trying to see what they were going on. You could see a lot of like everyone looking over. What's the crowd talking about?
Yeah,
And they're
yeah,
all pointing on the ice.
yeah.
But Shun's like about to get ready to go. Shun's like not even. I
Oh,
don't
he's
think he
already started, and
notices.
they're still
Yeah,
out of their
the
seats. Like,
crowd has. And he doesn't notice the crowd doing this at all. I think he just thinks they're cheering or something because
yeah,
he's in that headspace. And I think once he starts, the official just kind of like, oh well, we'll just wait to see if
and
something
hopefully he
happens.
doesn't fall on whatever's there, you know?
And to me, I'm like, that drove me crazy. That drove me nuts is just kind of somebody who these rules exist for a reason. The referee is there for a reason, and it's to ensure this safe competition. And even if it's some small piece of like bead or whatever was shining that we could see on the ice, there's such a huge potential for disaster, even if it's something he could avoid. He shouldn't have to avoid it. And if
Right.
he actively saw it and avoided it, I don't know.
Yeah,
It didn't
I
seem
don't
like it
know.
affected him at all. But honestly, that drove me nuts. It was hard for me to get into the program because I
I think
kept
so too.
every time he went around that
Mhm.
shiny
They're
piece, I
all
kept
they're
being
just
like,
looking up to make sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And then in the long program, I honestly, he's one of these skaters to where when I watch him, I really like him. When I'm done watching him, I forget.
I don't
And he
forget. I
doesn't
think the
really,
Ladies in Lavender program is really nice. Like I can tell you, yeah, like I said, I memorized choreography, and I can tell you the majority of that program. I think he has really nice
mm,
shoulders, really nice posture.
he does, yeah.
There's something I think these programs this year are the best that he's ever had because he really used to pretty much skate through the music, as nice as the music might have been. I think the programs this year are better. I just don't think men's skating is difficult because we go all the way down to the first group in the free skate and the second group in the free skate. Even the people that didn't qualify in the short program, there's a lot of big
Yeah,
personality, and he just doesn't really have one. And he has this Japanese basics, the strong foundations, maybe not as strong as most, but very, very competent, very good skating, just not the oomph to really have anything stand out.
right.
Yeah.
And that's really what it is. It's not like anything's bad. Everything's really great. Everything's really good. But it's all kind of
Quad
that
lutz,
even.
like
And so
easy.
not yeah, that's insane. Just
Looks like a
the
triple every
rotation
single
speed,
time.
it looks like a triple.
Yeah.
It's not like he gets great height on it,
Yeah.
right? But his rotation speed is
So
just
fast.
ridiculously fast. Yeah. But he's another skater too. I he fell in the quad flip or he made a mistake. He's trying quad flip now, but his edge is always bad. And so I don't understand that calculus either. Why not just go for another quad lutz
Mhm.
unless he feels like it's not consistent enough or he just wants to repeat the quad toe because it's the more consistent quad. Like
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not for his quad flip
Yeah. Yeah.
per se.
Okay, speaking of someone with a really, really big personality, he has such a presence. He's
Oh,
tall. He's this beautiful presence on the ice. Jun-hwan Cha, so stylish, so finished that Ina Bauer. I made a little clip on my Instagram where I was like, I really want to come back to skating just to be able to learn this little sequence. Like it's going to be so easy for me to just go do it.
oh God, when an ISU judge asks me like, "Oh, when are you going to start?" I'm just like, I hear this and then my knees and my hips and everything starts to hurt already. So
I have no intention
gonna,
of coming back. When I skated, I just wanted to jump, and that was it. So to think about even doing any moves in the field, not going to happen. But speaking of kind of mismatched programs, I mean, he is a beautiful skater, but the short program for me is just not what I would expect from him, and I don't think he really gets into it. I'm sure his fandom is going to say, "Oh, it's amazing," but I just did not get that feeling from it. I think there were a million other choices, not necessarily in the same realm as his free skate, but just something a little bit better to show off his skating. Uh, I didn't.
yeah, I don't get these choices either. And I wonder if this was like a year where it's like let's try to expand our horizons, let's try to grow as an artist because the Olympics are next year. Let's see if we have more options as opposed to just kind of what would I call him? He was almost like a he's like a movie star skater. Let me skate to some big movie soundtracks. Let me use my really like movie star looks, my
Mhm.
amazing skating skills to kind of really show that and be expansive and big and fill the arena. Whereas I agree with you, these program choices this year just
The free
were
skate
not
actually
it.
was okay. You don't think
Say
so?
it again.
Free skate I thought was okay. I didn't really like. I think skate
Okay,
was
right?
his first.
Okay, but
Yeah.
it was too subtle. It was too much. So like just for the short program, I think Imagine Dragons is a terrible choice for him. I think it's honestly a terrible choice for most. I'm
Yeah.
not saying this as an anti-Imagine Dragons, whatever. It's just I don't even know who can really skate to Imagine Dragons well. The only name I really think of is Ilia, but because he has that kind of youthful abandon about things. He just kind of dives into things. He can be campy. He's not trying to take things too seriously when he performs. And I think that's what you need for Imagine Dragons. Whereas I felt like a really literal interpretation of Imagine Dragons is just not,
Yeah.
should not be on anyone's
It's just not
option list.
it wasn't one of my favorites, and I
Right.
adore him so much.
Right.
His world's free skate a few years ago, that I it's on heavy rotation on my replays, the power at the end. I mean, just everything about that program was so beautiful.
Yeah.
Free skate, the beginning of this year, I know the free skate, I was like, I don't know. I
I
actually
still kind
warmed
of,
up to it. I warmed up to it more than I think it's choreographed really well. Um, it's not my
it's just
favorite.
not for him.
Fun,
I
yeah,
just don't think it's for him. He doesn't like I see this and I want like Momola to skate to it.
yeah,
That's who I want to skate to it. Someone who can bring that intensity and that more passion to it, whereas almost like he's just not capable of that intensity. It's almost like Jun-hwan needs to flow with the music, right? He can't sit there and kind of just like music like this. It's almost like it's a back and forth with music. It's like a tango. You try to think, right? Like how dancers should dance in a tango. It's not like with one another necessarily. It's a bit adversarial at times. He doesn't have that quality. And so yeah, give a program like this to Momola, but no, go back to some movie soundtrack. I'm
yeah.
almost like give him Armageddon, you know?
No, we've seen that already.
I
That's very
know.
good.
But for
So
real, like that's what he needs,
yeah.
in my opinion.
Finishing right behind him, like literally, I think like less than a tenth of a point was Jason Brown. I
Oh, was
know,
it that close?
yeah, I keep up
Oh
on the
wow.
internet, and I know a lot of people were very, very much questioning US figure skating, why they would send Jason to Worlds. Um, I was reading, oh, he doesn't have a triple axel anymore. He's going to probably do a triple lutz double toe in the short program because he lost his triple triple. Then he comes out, and like I said, that first day where I was there for 17 hours, I recorded all the practices, and he went back to, I think, an older triple axle pattern into the jump, and the jump looked pretty decent here in that practice. He nailed it. You could go under a microscope and say, maybe it's on that cue if you, but it looks so much better. His skating in general looks so much better. Short program was okay. I like the program more than I thought I was going to. But the free skate for me is a masterpiece. I think this is one of my favorite programs of his that he's done in quite some time. I think he did win the PCS, and I think he
Yep.
was deserving in that. There's just so
Should
much
have been higher.
subtle beauty. The way he goes from down to up and up to down in his spins, and there's just all these little nuances that are just so beautiful, and I'm happy that he was rewarded with this program with that PCS because I completely agree with it. And fourth place in the free skate again, all these talks about quads, he's right in there. If he can deliver a clean competition, he's at a disadvantage in the short where he can't really catch up, and the PCS doesn't really, give him 45, 46 PCS. The other skaters that are maybe not near as good as him are getting 42, 43 anyway. So there's no way for him to really catch up there. But the free skates, time and time again, he's shown that he is USA number two clearly. And all these other skaters are really getting all these opportunities. And it's unfortunate. I'm just as happy as the next person that Andrew Torgashev had the season he had. I'm just as happy that Jimmy Ma was on the Four Continents podium, but it needs to be a consistent line, and this is what Jason has done time and time again.
Right.
With that,
I,
there's three spots that are retained. Without Jason if Jason that a lot of people imagine showed up to Worlds, then they're down to 2 spots, and then I'm sure it
Exactly.
would be
Right.
all his fault anyways. So um, I'm very very happy for him. I don't know. He's stuck in it this long. I am sure he's going to try to make it to the Olympics next year.
I hope he does.
Yeah.
At this point, he's earned it.
Yeah.
He's that second spot for in my eyes. I
Is
know
this all
I was following these debates a little bit too, and for me, I don't know who said this, but I remember you mentioning this to me. It's all about who's going to qualify for the short program, and he could go out there and do a triple double, a triple, a double axel, and
Yeah.
qualify for the
And
long
85
program and
points
make it out of
easily.
the short.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Because even here, it's like he got a Q on the triple axel and did a triple double that wasn't the cleanest,
Mhm.
still scores over 80.
Yeah.
Every other US man, aside from Torgashev, was at great risk of not making the long program just given their history. If you just take their average, they're not making the long
Right.
this event, right? It's again another dice roll.
Right.
Um, and just on the performance itself, you were there, right? Mr. Me, Josh. I think it was his first time seeing Jason Brown live, and he doesn't watch figure skating. He just kind of likes the few skaters he sees based on the general audience, right? He's kind of that everyman person for me, and I always try to ask that. And
Yeah.
the skaters he gravitates to are those that have that je ne sais quoi, that excellent skating skills, artistry, but he can't always, put into words. But Jason Brown is one of those, and he cried during that long
Yeah.
program run through. He cried. It was just his skating is so beautiful, and I know he has a lot of detractors. And I was one of those too for a little bit because I just didn't like his old style of programs. They were just a bit too much. I wasn't a big fan of his Rohini programs, but the first time I saw him live, I was just blown away. I was blown away by the artistry, the skating skills, how he's able to blend all these different things, whereas this athleticism, the flexibility, his innate musicality into a performance. I don't care about any of the criticisms people say stuff like all of his spins are the same every year, or he's never
Pretty
going to
much
get a
every skater.
quad.
Right.
Great, exactly. It's these criticisms that apply to everybody.
Yeah.
But Jason Brown is exceptional, and the
But you know
fact
what?
that he
His
could have
spins might
been
be the same, but they are +4, +5 worthy out of
right.
anyone there.
Hmm.
So who cares? Like
Who
that.
cares?
I would rather see the fast rotations, the stretched out positions, the unique positions. I mean, unique in his sense that he's the only one really doing a lot of.
Right. He's one of the last skaters left, included in any field, doing transitions. So like per
Yeah.
regular, like it's just a normal part of skating. Yeah.
So no question in my mind. He deserves to be there. He should be skating. He is helping lead the way. No one else is really stepping it up, and I don't think he's taking away a spot from anybody else. I really
He's
truly.
not like
He's
right. Who's
not.
really deserving of any of these spots? And even like Torgashev had a great season, but even then here at World shown that he's prone to not great performances like all the other US men. So who do we have? We really do have Ilya and we have Jason.
Right.
They're our most reliable skaters for different reasons, but to me they're a lock. If Jason wants to go to the Olympics next year and he doesn't compete at all in the fall, give it to him.
Right.
Monitor him, but give it to
Yeah.
him because who else is really going to show up for us?
Agreed. Behind them, Nika Egadze from Georgia. So he changed his free skate this year. I am going to just say I don't know if he went back to an old program or if this was a new program because I do not remember any of his
I don't
programs.
either.
Um, I think he was more into this program than he was the previous one. But again, the first 7 elements are all of his jumping passes, and this is the approach. This is the opposite of the Zagitova approach, I guess, but it's very glaring. He really spends so much time setting up for these. And the weird thing is he makes a lot of the jumps look so easy, but it's like such a chore to get to them. I don't know. This is another Elia case for me because he has a Deadpool exhibition that is so funny and
Oh,
just
really?
oh my God, it's
I haven't
so
watched it.
it was one of the highlights of Skate America, and he has so much personality, and it is really so funny. It is good. And then you see in competition, he just loses all of that. I don't want to say he looks miserable, but he just does not look like he's having fun. And so I don't know if it's
So in a Terry skater?
well, yeah,
I
but
mean,
I don't know if it's just there's not enough time for him to really sell the program kind of in the Elia way because he's chasing all these quads or if it's nerves or what it is, but there's a very stark contrast between his competitive programs and what he puts out in the exhibition. And one thing other that I will say about him, Skate America, he was sitting right in front of me for part of the competition, and I said hi to him and I talked to him, and he's very shy, and he's very very much a fan of all of the skating. We saw it here too. He was in the stands right in front of us at
He
one,
was. Hmm.
and he's into all of the skating. He's very supportive of all the other skaters. He truly likes the sport. So for me, seeing this at Skate America up close, it made me start rooting for him. I'm like, as boring as
It,
programs might
it
be,
it
I
really
want.
did. And too, you could see that, right? We saw him in the stands for every event.
Mhm.
He was really into it. But also what I saw too was that he sat alone a lot,
Yeah.
and you could see that, and you could see you were mentioning that he's shy. You can see that too. Maybe he doesn't make friends as easily as other folks. And then there's the whole situation with his coaching team. But I, same thing. I grew to appreciate him more just seeing that he's a fan of the sport. There's a lot of figure skaters who don't watch any figure skating. I'm
Mhm.
not sure if folks know that, but yeah, tons of skaters have no interest in the sport outside of their own skating, which is totally normal in any sport, really is.
Right.
Um, but I love that he's a fan and how supportive he was of everybody. But I feel that same disconnect, and I don't remember if I was talking to you about this, but in his long program, literally as he was going from jump to jump, and then it's like jump five, and then jump six, and then jump seven, and no other elements,
Mhm.
there's like a chatter. There's a chatter going around.
Mhm.
Like everyone's talking about it. And even just then, if we're noticing it as an audience, the judges are noticing it too. And I always wonder like what goes behind that. To me, it feels fatigue
Mhm.
based. I
Mhm.
think it's a stamina thing. And you could see that with his spins that
Yeah.
weren't the best.
I have like a soft spot for him, I guess. He's always finishing so many competitions. I think a lot of the Grand Prix, he finishes fourth place, finished fourth at Euros. I mean, he's always like just almost there. And it's like he just falls short. So I hope um I really hope that he kind of develops this sense of musical style. Like I think it's in him, and I think it just needs to
It
get
is.
competition,
I, I just don't think it's. I think it's program choice. It's like you're saying that like he's skating to Oppenheimer for the long program, and then literally there's this narration about being the destroyer of worlds. I'm
Mm.
like, so
Yeah, but it's
you're
very like
interpreting the advent of nuclear
yeah,
weapons.
yeah.
Like
I
I
like the
just don't
music though. I
understand
think
where
the
he's
music
going.
was good. Like I think he really could have gotten the crowd into it, but it's just
Yeah.
it's not on that level.
And he just is stone faced. He doesn't change his expression at all, and no matter what music is playing, even if it just feels like he's going through the motions.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Let's hope he finds that. I really hope he does. Denis Vasilyev's jumping around a little bit. He had the skate of his life in the free skate. I mean, maybe the skate of his life. He had a really good skate at Euros a few years ago, but basically on fire. Really needed to have that climb back up to allow Latvia to have two spots to the Olympics. His skating, it does feel like it's a throwback to the 90s. It's like it's a throw. It's like an extension of what Stefan probably would have skated to, and now it's like Dennis is his muse, and I think he's one of my favorite skaters. Time and time again, he has all these very very different programs, but I find myself getting into all of them. No
yeah.
different in the short program here, no different in the free skate here. I'm into his skating. I think you want to watch it. I think that the throwback kind of retro skating is nice. The 90s are like my peak fandom of figure skating. So I enjoy it. But I think you will say this. He looks a little bit out of place. He just doesn't.
Yeah.
He's unique. Um, but it's just not. And one thing I will notice about his technique, he jumps very big, but his rotation getting into a lot of the triples is very slow. So the thing is, he's prone to these cue calls and these under rotation calls, even on some of the easier jumps. He goes up very high, but the rotation is just like he
Yeah.
doesn't snap
The
with.
delayed. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So
You mean you said it for me? He feels out of place. but in like a good way, in that it's like refreshing. It's almost like it takes you out of modern skating and brings you that nostalgia. Down to the costume, even. The costume feels older, ill-fashioned in a good way. The music clearly is. If he's doing opera, who's doing classical music or opera today? Almost nobody, and doing it well. And he's just somebody who's where, if he gets a European medal again, we're happy, right? I feel
Mhm.
like that's the most expectations we can have for where he's at. But I'm here to be entertained. Something I think about too is how he's become this kind of classic skater of the 90s. When I feel like we first saw him, was he the first one to really bring Tron to everybody? And to skating like almost 10 years ago, but like he was this avant-garde young skater kind of like bringing this newness, this youth, and now he's kind of retreading into this nostalgia, almost like growing up with us, that
Yeah.
because that's what we want now. So I really enjoyed him too. But outside of that, I'm really curious to see what his plans are after the Olympics, because I don't see him really getting into medal position at Worlds at all, even like a small medal. It's Euros, but we'll see what happens.
Mhm. Nikolaj Memola, the chatter around us with all the VIPs, they're
He's
all
so tall.
Nancy Kerrigan was
How
on
tall
her
is he?
phone. She literally was on her phone, like seeing how tall he was. And then she
I
was like
know.
comparing it to Evan Lysacek, and they're all talking about how this is so amazing that it really is something. And I've talked about this
It is, yeah.
world. The fact that he can even rotate a quad lutz, and sometimes it is leaning a little bit. The fact that with his center of balance being so high up compared to the average person, it's really remarkable that he's not all over in the air. He's really learned how to balance himself on all of the quads and triples. I saw he was doing quad, or actually, I saw in the practice, he was landing quad flip, and I was like, where did this
Oh,
come
he
from?
was?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
And for him, he's another one that's prone to edge calls on his lutzes, and he does four of them in the free skate. So it would be nice to see
Right.
a quad flip. Um, he's expressive, fiery, I would say, in his face, in his movements. He is not the fastest skater. He's probably one of
Yeah.
the slowest skaters. He doesn't have a tremendous amount of in-betweens going on.
Right.
But I think the innate sense of style and understanding the music is there. He just I'm hoping Barbara Fusar-Poli, who is his godmother, I think there's some relationship there.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah, I think I would like to see her really kind of kick his ass on basics, so that he can elevate himself to another level. He's already amazing. He's been in top 10 in worlds twice now. He has a European silver medal, very accomplished. Um, Arguably, leading the way for the Italians next year. Um, I like his skating. I just think there's a little bit more work to do, but all the same, he was very enjoyable. He's somebody that you keep your eyes on and you watch him.
Yeah, 100%. Aside from just being so tall, like literally like ridiculously tall, like I'm not sure what it was like for you, but it's almost like he's like too big for the dollhouse. That's like someone took their doll to put it into the skating rink. That's what it feels like, though. It's so out of place. But you really do notice those deficiencies, like you're saying, with the skating skills, because it's more noticeable that he's struggling with speed out there, especially toward the later part of the programs. That's probably why too some of these programs are so empty. And
He's another one. I think his spins are always down levels.
yeah,
They're never quite high. I think I've noticed that
they're just yeah,
even if
he
he
throws
does,
them away a lot too.
yeah, if he gets a high level of the GOEs, like maybe a zero or even sometimes in the negative. So listen, I was a tall skater. I'm 5'11", and like I said, I only wanted to jump. And, I took some big, hard falls. Being 5'11" is tall for skating. So he's 6'5". Like, this is a different world. I can only imagine how hard he's had to work to get
Right.
all
I
done.
mean, in practice, he does wear that pad to help
Yeah, he has
with the
butt pads.
falls.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
he does. Yeah, I
So,
think he's the only one that we saw. I
yeah.
didn't notice anyone else.
Yeah.
And that's really interesting too, because you're saying like he's going to be the future, right? Or you hope he is of Italian skating, and I feel very similarly, even with the dodgy technique on like the Lutz, in almost every phase of the jump, he's still one of my favorite. I know, like I really like Rizzo. But Memola's my second, and I know they get two spots next year.
Yeah.
they're the two I hope go. But speaking of which, the next Italian skater,
Daniel Grassel. Okay,
yeah,
so not the competition result he wanted here, that's for sure.
yeah,
Made the Grand Prix final. I mean, he was really hit hard at Europeans, but I have to say I don't think that's unfair. A lot of the time
right.
when he's getting these high scores, I think I'm more
He's
curious.
getting the benefit of the doubt more. He's
Yeah,
he's gotten
exactly.
way more gifts than otherwise. I don't recall any time where I felt like there were bad calls that hurt him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Quad loop that he's been trying in the short program, even the free skate, it's quad loop is interesting because more often than not, even on the triple loop we see there's a hooked landing a lot. And
yeah.
with Daniel, it's very, very pronounced where I almost like before he even does the jump, I'm like, it's gonna be at least a quarter short. It's gonna come around that corner and it's gonna hook and it's gonna be so obvious. Quad Lutz, I mean, his Lutz technique is a mess. I,
Terrible.
I for as many Lutzes as he does, it's like even the triple Lutz ends up looking like it could be a struggle, and I don't I I just I don't know. I think his skating's very nice. He did a White Crow program a few years ago, and even you see inside of that, he does have some style to his skating. And this has been said before, maybe you've said it, I've seen it, where his jumps are actually the weakest part of his skating, but this is what he's
Oh yeah.
for. This is like he has some really cool spin positions. He can tell a story relatively well. I don't know what the free skate. I mean, it's very strange. Um, but the jumps are just all over the
Yeah.
place. And I think
And
again,
it's
all these,
every jump. It's not like a few. It's
yeah,
every single one has
yeah.
problems. And that's my biggest thing, I enjoy watching Isabeau now because the flip looks a lot better. The Lutz is still, but it's not like it's every time, right? All the other jumps are good or, good enough. But Daniel, it's just every single jump. I sit
Lots
there and
of
I
pre-rotation too.
cringe. Yeah.
Yeah, like if we want to, the pre-rotation thing never really kicked in, and it's something that needs to be called
Mhm.
immediately. And
Like
I
with his
would say his
Lutz.
Lutz
That's
is,
so
yeah,
bad.
his toe loop is basically a toe axle, or he's
Yeah.
really rotating before he gets up in the air. I think for him, he's going the route of other skaters that have had these problems, where he just hopes for a good day where a panel looks the other way.
Right.
Otherwise, no, there's not too much there. I do think that if we're looking at the strength of what the Italians have, I think the three others are probably more well-rounded. Frangipani is wildly inconsistent, so we have to take that into consideration. But if Memola keeps up what he's doing, if he adds the squad flip, if he keeps progressing, and Rizzo is healthy, I would say those are the two. That would be, a lot changes in an Olympic season. I don't know, but as far
Yeah.
as
Right.
overall quality of skating, it would be those two for me.
Yeah, same. I mean, I think for you, we agree on Memolo. I just prefer Rizzo. That's all. But it sounds like Daniel's on the bottom of both our lists, and I imagine that'd be true for most. I'm trying to think like when we're talking to folks, if anyone was like, "Oh, I really like Daniel as like a skater," and it really was nobody. I'm not trying to say that in like a down way, just in a very factual like that's just what people were talking about. And if not for these easier calls, how much success we really have at events. It's not like he's doing a lot more quads either to make up the difference. He's usually going for two or three, like most of the field. And so he's just so vulnerable to these calls actually getting,
Yeah.
I don't want to say this in a whatever way, but yeah, of these calls, right? And then even then, all of the elements, there's nothing to make up for it. It's not like he has these great skating skills. I don't think he's the worst. I think he's improved a lot. I think he's improved a lot in his extension. I think he's improved a lot in his musicality, but he's still prone to those same issues too, especially into and out of jumps. And it's really strange to be like, oh, here I am. Here's this great extension. It's even in the White Crow program. Here's this great, I've been working on my toe point, but now I'm going to go barrel into this quad and just
Right.
hunch over like mad and then land completely hunched over.
Right.
Yeah, not my favorite.
Lucas Britschke, European champion, had an injury right after Euros. It was kind of questionable whether he would be at
Oh, he
World.
did? No, I didn't even
He
know
had an
that.
injury right after Europeans. He was here. I don't think he has any lingering effects from the injury. It's unfortunate. He's outside the top 10. I thought he's a skater, in the short program. I don't necessarily think even if he's clean that he's going to get into that final group, but he can really be on fire in the free skates. He's typically very
Yeah.
consistent. Here, he was just off the entire competition. Really enjoyable. I still remember watching him. There was one season he did Love is a Bitch. I'm pretty sure that I'm right about this. And he had a little bit of the curly hair going on. And it was like it was almost like a Jason tribute program. So that made me first make notice of him. He didn't qualify to the free skate at Worlds. Next season, he had a really cool short program. Again, he either just barely qualified or didn't. So I've been following for him a long time, and his progression has been really amazing. I was so happy for him at Europeans. He's a skater I see in the comments on Instagram. He is so supportive of every other
Yeah.
person. He is very, very, very supportive of people. He loves the sport. Cool programs. I mean, I think he always really gets into his programs. I think if it is an injury thing that kind of held him back here, hopefully that he takes the summer to heal. But all the same, the opposite of Grossel, he's really enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, for real though, he is, and he's one of that group of skaters where he has a quad toe, right? And that's I don't think he's landed anything else. But
No, no.
if he could land that quad toe in the short program and those two quads in the long program, he really does set himself up to take advantage of other people's mistakes. And there's quite a few skaters, especially in Europe, who are kind of on that. That's Levko brothers too, to where they can take advantage, right, of mistakes of those skaters who have more quads. And he's really enjoyable. It's the same thing to where it's like I really like watching him. He's not somebody who I ever feel nervous about whether or not they're going to medal because I don't expect him to, honestly. If he does, it's great. If he doesn't, oh, that's great too. You had a good skate. That's great. What was that one program he did last year? The long program.
It was like an African, like
Right.
a
Right.
yeah.
And I know like a lot of folks were like, "Oh, I don't know about this," but I mean, I enjoyed it because what about him is that he puts everything into it. He's trying. He wants it to be good. He wants it to be authentic. I don't think he treats it like a joke or
Mhm.
campy or kitschy in any
Absolutely.
way. He treats it with a lot of authenticity, and you see that just him as a person too. And so I really enjoy watching him and rooting for him. But yeah,
Yeah. Roman Sadovsky, what a dream of a skater. I mean, I love watching him. And it gets distracting with all. He's very hot and cold, and this has been the story of his career.
Mhm.
He wins Canadian nationals, and then I'm pretty sure.
By default, really.
Well, I mean, this year, yeah, but 2020 he did, and then he goes to four continents, and I think maybe the lowest finish ever for any Canadian skater in that event, or if it wasn't, it was pretty close. So the story of his life is, he's winning a medal on the Grand Prix one event, and then he's last place the next event by a lot. 2022, he just barely qualified an Olympic spot for Canada, their second Olympic spot, when he had to go to Nebelhorn. Here, a better competition than not, really. I think this is probably the best he's skated in a long time.
Years,
Yeah.
honestly. I don't recall a
I,
time he
I
skated
love
this
this.
well.
You know what? It's interesting to me because I get so frustrated by skaters that don't really make changes to their training environment. I guess I would say, like if it's hot and cold this whole time, why are you not? What works for them works for them. They're comfortable, whatever. I can't fault them for their decisions, but usually in a skater in his position, I would just be like, oh, I'm over this. Like this is the same story. But I truly I get into his performance every single time that he's skating. There's so much to like about his skating. Both programs this year, I think they're excellent. I'm happy, Canada has their Olympic spot. Wesley Chu has been injured. I don't know what he's going to be like next year, but I wouldn't mind to see Roman back at the Olympics and maybe with a better experience than what he had in 2022.
Yeah, I love Roman as a skater. I think he's one of those skaters too, to where once you kind of get over this believing in his potential and wanting him to meet that potential, you can kind of just relax and enjoy him as how he comes, right? And I think that was one of my problems with Roman is that I kept wanting him to be clean. I kept wanting him to land these two quad short programs, land those three quads and two double axles, or sorry, two triple axles in the long program. But once I just kind of accepted who he is now,
Mhm.
the skate short program was a little rocky. It was a little rough in the free grip program too. But I really enjoyed it. You could just sit there and just get into his skating
Yep.
skills.
Yep.
Who else? It's definitely top in the world, right? Not the best. I would say that's
Top
Kagayyama.
group.
He's one of the best. Top group, 100%. Top group and skating skills. And it really is that interpretation of the music. He does it. He feels it. He gives everything into those performances. I never feel like he's holding back. I never feel like that's the missing piece. The missing piece is clearly the athletic consistency. But I'd watch him every day. He
Yeah.
doesn't have to jump.
Yeah.
He just has to be Roman.
Yeah.
I like those weird videos he posts on YouTube too of those super cuts of his programs.
Yeah.
I don't know. I get really into them. And that theatricality you feel too, but it's like it's from a genuine place. It's not like he's trying to be out there and outrageous. He just wants to perform well.
Right.
Anyway, I love it.
Uh, Very interesting to me. I didn't realize this, but Adam Hagara from Slovakia. So like I said, I've said this probably 10 times now, but I made videos of every single skater and I put them on Instagram. And out of all the skaters in the entire field at the World Championships, Adam is the one that I had the most DMs. I love this skater. Clips of him. He's going to be the best in the world. A lot of Japanese fans are really into him, but it's not just the Japanese fans. There's people from all over the world that really see the potential in him. They're curious about him. They want to see more about him. Doesn't have a quad yet. Usually barrels through the ice doing these triples like they're nothing. The axle literally it snaps up like he does this thing with his neck when he goes into his jumps, but it's like no hesitation at all. He just goes up.
Yeah, it's the Hanyu thing where he turns his head with the
Yeah.
snap. Yeah.
Yeah. He actually has good musicality. I feel like I think for a few years when he's been at Euros for a while now, and I think he's been at Worlds actually for a few years as well, and he's still pretty young. But there was really nothing to his programs in the beginning, and now you see it's starting to develop. He's starting to get into it. Really enjoyable. I don't think there's anything right now that really is like wow, but the skating as a whole, he's really into the skating, and I think there's an excitement because he's so into it.
Yeah, you can feel that, and you can feel that in the way he performs too. But it's a combination of things like you were saying, of you being like, just watch his skating skills, just watch him perform to the music, right? He doesn't have a quad yet, but imagine what he would score with a quad,
Mhm.
and yeah, you could see that, you could see all of that potential. And I remember him from juniors, right, a few years back, and I honestly had not had a kind of like recollection of what he's been skating like as a
Oh,
senior
listen,
until I
I
saw him
he
at
skated to
Worlds.
Dream On, Aerosmith like 2 years in a row. And that's an exciting music choice, but he skated right through it. I mean, he
Yeah,
really
I'm like, no, that's a terrible music choice for him. I don't even
yeah.
remember it.
Yeah, he skated right through it. And you see what the music is like on the bottom of the screen, like, oh, I'm gonna like this program. It was a bunch of nothing. But to his credit now, he's still very young. He's very young. He's really, really developing. And I think I don't doubt that he'll be able to get a quad toe because I think his technique is strong enough that it probably in the cards already in practice. And then we're looking at another case of like Denis Vasilyev's where he's maybe pushing for a Europeans medal one day. Really,
Mhm.
he could be.
Yeah, I agree. I hope he gets it. Like, and it's European men's. There's always some level of luck involved too. Even if he's that skater who's like two fourth places equals a silver,
Yeah.
give it
Oh,
to
like
him.
Bychenko.
Wow. Yeah, yeah, like the
Yeah,
chick.
Bychenko. I think he won silver that way one year.
Yeah,
Okay, so one of my absolute favorite skaters in the entire field, Daiwei Dai from China. And I told you, I don't think you had seen him or
I had not. I had not. Mhm.
so I said, out of these early groups, Daiwei is one of the people. I think he skated maybe in the second or the third group in the short program. But I was like, I really like his program. I really like his skating. Happily for me, all of the Olympians that we were around seemed to really, really like him as well. They were after they saw both of his programs, they were talking about how good they think he is. Um, not to be hateful, but China just needs to forget about Boyang Jin and they really need to put all their energy into Daiwei. I'm hoping this is not
Yeah,
a 2022 situation where you know Hanyan was infinitely better of a skater in 2022. Not the most consistent, but everything about his skating, his PCS should have been a good 3 points, literally higher than what Boyang Jin was getting. They still gave Boyang because the basis of
quads.
the technical content that he has, they gave him the chance. Boyang started the season okay. He was winning short programs at Grand Prix events and then finishing like 10th or 11th in the free skate. It's nothing out of the ordinary from what we've seen from him the last few years. I just hope that Daiwei gets he earned the ticket for China here, and I feel like if he keeps up what he's done this year, then there should be no question he is the better skater, and he should go to the Olympics.
100%. I think I talked to you about this too. I still have some residual resentment and trauma over Hanyan not going to the Olympics
Yeah,
because it was that previous world where Boyang was the one who lost the second spot, really, because he placed worse
and
and
Hanyan was
crashed and burned.
14th, I think. Like it was that close to
That
where
close. Was it
yeah,
one place? Yeah, one placement.
it
Literally
was
one
13th.
placement. It was something like, and no, something like 2 points, not even like one less mistake. China has two spots. But then even then, the way it was stacked the next year to just give Boyang the spot.
Mhm.
But then I think about how last time the World was in Boston, he won the bronze. He's not skating any better. He's skating worse. He's skating
That's the
worse in
thing.
almost
Yeah.
every single way.
Yeah.
And you would think like his skating skills would get better. You would think his artistry is getting better. But no, I actually think he's performing worse in terms of like interpreting music. At least he had this kind of fun way
Spider-Man.
of,
Yeah, like
yeah, it was fun. It was genuine. And now he's just like skating through music. His skating
right.
skills are worse, in my opinion. None of these other elements are any better. And his jumps are objectively worse.
Mhm.
When was the last time he landed a great quad lutz? I can't even tell you when that was. I probably go on skating scores and find out, but yeah, it's just not there. And so I don't see what China gains by continuously investing in Boyang, other than that he's just been the one. He's been the standard bearer.
Right.
But he's been the standard bearer for 10 years.
Yeah.
Let's invest in the future. And I agree
By the
with
way,
you.
I mean, by the
Daiwei was
way, his
blown away by Daiwei. I had not
quad
seen him
flow, triple
before.
toe, like flow,
My
like
goodness. It's
he,
and even just in the skating skills, it does remind you of Han Yan in that he just truly fills the ice. He
Mhm.
fills the rink and
Right.
he skates that way. And I wish he kind of had a cleaner performance here just so he could have placed higher, possibly have been in top 10. I know
Yeah.
it was kind of a stretch
That would be
anyway
a
to get
stretch.
that, but I don't want to see him lose out on this Olympic spot next year. And I'm with you. I have this fear that China's just going to push Boyang because he's been the one. But please, somebody just see that Daiwei needs to be the one because he's the one in the next cycle that they're going to rely on. There's no way Boyang can be in the next cycle. There's no way his body is surviving that.
Right.
And yeah,
So yeah, he is one of Daiwei is one of my absolute favorites. I think he can elevate it even further, and I hope
yep.
his career trajectory goes up rather than we see with Boyang, for example.
Right. Like, is the money the Chinese Fed is using to let Boyang live in Canada and train in Canada every once in a while or sometimes for long stretches? Put it in Daiwei, please. Please put it in Daiwei. Anyway.
Mihail Salevko, the brother from Estonia that ended up getting chosen here. I told you, and I told everyone around me, I'm like, this short program is so weird. It is like
I
a
love it.
horror something. It's my favorite short program of the year. I think out of all the skaters, is probably my favorite program. I love it. I love it. I
Right.
thought it was so good.
Me too.
You looked at me, you're like, oh my god, I love this.
Oh, that's the one where it's like a Klimkin program, but
Yes,
even
exactly,
creepier.
exactly.
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, that's right, that's right. Yeah. So both of his programs are great.
Yeah. Both are great. I think he's a really interpretive skater. He was always kind of known as that in the last few seasons. He was always in the shadow of his brother, but not a great competition for him here. One spot
Yeah.
first. Yeah, there was an outside chance, I think, that they were hoping for two. Um, we'll see what happens next year. I think Mihail is maybe the more artistic skater.
Oh, 100% he is. Yeah, just by how invested he is. And
Yeah.
again, it's like that full investment into just the weirdness of it. And I think it's the Westworld one where he literally just is it is on 2 feet, but he just leans for the judges and does this weird kind of like
No,
hand
that's a
voguing
short
that's
program.
super it's a short too? Oh God,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
mixing everything up because it's
Yeah.
all so cool.
Yeah.
But it's so cool.
Yeah.
And yeah,
I love
I'd
him.
happily watch him again for
Yeah.
years. Yeah.
At European, I watched that program. I saw it and I like went back and rewatched it during the ice resurfacing because I'm like, this is so cool. I really, really like it. Some other names just throw out Tomas Guarino Sabate from Spain. I think finally this year he has two programs that are really, really audience friendly. Before, I always felt like he was skating the same program over and over and over again. His free skate was like this cowboy spaghetti western, if you will, and it ended with Cotton Eye Joe, which I remember 2009 World, Samuel Contesti, who skated for Italy at the time, he had a very similar program and it boosted him up. I think it was fifth or sixth at that Worlds. Crazy PCS through the roof on like interpretation for this. It brought down the house, but this is like a very similar program, and we've seen programs from Eric Mio and Philippe Candeloro in the past from France. But this really, he was in the first group, and I think that skate in the free skate was the first one that really energized the crowd. They were really, really into it.
It did, they really did. And I'm trying to remember what the PCS was, but I was remember looking at it and being like, "Oh, this is really high for early group." The judges really bought into
Oh yeah,
the
it was something
crowd
in
and
the
the Cotton Eye
sevens.
Joe.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, "Ooh, any other music in any other country, this is sixes." But you know, I'm here for it. I clapped. I stood. I was like, yeah.
All right, let's talk about Andrew Torgashev.
Oh, do we have
I
to? Oh my goodness, I'm sorry. I'm just like residual trauma still.
The thing is, I've thought he was so good for so long. I really thought in
He's
2018,
good.
I literally like I remember I was saying, he could be an outside shot for the Olympics in 2018, and here we are 7 years later. This is this season was so good for him. He was so consistent in the Grand Prix. He ended up being, I think, when all was said and done, because Shidorov went to the Grand Prix final, I think he was next in line to go to the Grand Prix final. Um, Looking like he was US number two very solidly. And I mean, he was at nationals. There was no question there. Uh, I I noticed in practices that the quad toe wasn't really going well for him. It wasn't that all the other games
Yeah,
were bad, but I could see like something was up there.
it was a
Um,
half and half when I was watching.
yeah,
Like he would make half, and yeah, very Patrick Chan, unfortunately.
yeah. I don't know what threw him off so much here. Um, his flow, the way he glides around the ice is just so effortless, and he gets so much speed. He reminds me, he's working with Raphael, and Alexander Abt was coached by Artunian back in his day, and he probably was his first really big skater, but he was known for having this just wonderful, wonderful glide, and I see a lot of it in Andrew. I think Andrew already came to him from an early age with these foundations, because he's a really, really good skating skills skater.
Mhm.
Um, Masterful movement across the ice, the footwork, the step sequence, the moves in the field are done so effortlessly. Uh, Having said all of that, we talk about Jason Brown, being the one to step it up and constantly deliver. I think, if he's anywhere on track next year, he's easily number two lock. So then we have this third spot that's really what I would have said is Andrew's spot. I'm
Right.
not so sure now,
Yeah.
unfortunately, just how it goes.
If Andrew had skated well in this long program, 100%, I would say the three spots are done. Sorry, guys. Sorry, other U.S. men. The three spots are done. It's going to be a huge climb. But yeah, this long program performance really kind of opened the door for that third spot. Uh,
And this is the second
yeah.
time at Worlds, and he's sub top 20. And I just wonder, like,
Yeah.
USFS can say that they don't consider, in the back of their minds, they have to know that this is his stats at the World Championships. I would probably prefer to see him overall the others, just because.
Same, but the fall is gonna matter. It's a very like Vincent Zoe situation to where okay, you can bomb the previous worlds, but if you can make it up in the fall, it's gonna matter. And the U.S. men have not been consistent. I don't think there's any reason to think otherwise for the next fall. And so whoever really emerges, I feel like from the fall as the top contender is gonna get that third spot. Adam can be that top contender by like a little bit and just be fine. Someone else, though, I feel like would need to be a little farther and away, like actually make the Grand Prix final, you know,
Yeah.
to lock in that third spot. But he's one of my favorite skaters. It's one of those like heartbreak situations. But eventually, I'll get over it. I honestly didn't want to talk about it just for that. But the
Yeah.
short program was amazing. I loved watching the short program. I thought he was undermarked. I thought he should have been, in my opinion, I would have put him in the top six. Because I thought he was undermarked in PCS. His PCS should have been higher, should have been mid eights. If not, I would have given it high eights, skating skills in the nines.
Mhm.
And I know you don't like the song. He makes me like it. He
It's
makes
not
me
that I
want to
don't
listen to
like the
it.
song. I
He
mean,
makes
it's out of
me
the three that we saw in the short program, by far has the best
by
of the
far the best. Yeah. Yeah. Was it Igatse who did the other one?
Egadze and David
Yeah, I didn't
from
know.
Monaco. Yeah.
Yeah, but you can see the potential. Even like Josh, when he was watching it, like in practice, was just like, oh, I could see that. It feels like that Jason Brown quality that I really drawn into, and you could see the shapes and the musicality, just the natural flow of everything.
Yeah.
And I don't know what was going on with him with the quad toe either, especially in the long program, because that practice was not going well. It always felt like he just wasn't getting up high enough. He was missing the timing on the takeoff.
Right.
It was different
Yeah.
every time in
Yeah.
practice. The lean, like was
To
different
me, it looked
every
like he was
single time.
the toe pick was all over the place.
It
He
was, yeah.
had good
Mhm.
technique, and it was like he was picking to the side. He was picking. I don't know. I watch. I'm like zooming in on on these entrances, and to me it just looks like he was kind of misplacing his toe and the
It
timing.
really was. It was almost like he was learning it. Like, it wasn't that competition ready, but it felt so competition ready all season. And I wonder what happened to the timing. And again, it made me go back to watching Patrick Chan skate.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if anyone's ever watched his practices, but they're always a mess. He's never had good practices that I've seen, but sometimes he pulls it out in competition. But it was almost like this, where it felt like he was learning how to do a quad toe again.
Right. Yeah.
Patrick Chan always looks like he's learning how to do a quad
Yeah.
toe in practice. You ever watched? But it's I don't know what went on, but it wasn't even just that. Whatever's going on affected him throughout the program too. It felt like the timing was really off all the way through. I hope I see him at the Olympics. I don't really enjoy watching another U.S. skater aside from Jason Brown just skate, other
Mhm.
than Andrew.
Mhm.
And I don't know what's going on.
Let's hope. Let's hope it
Yeah.
was a one-off.
Let's hope. Let's hope. Let's hope. Let's hope Ralph wasn't too hard on him
I'm
later
sure.
on in the
I
backswing.
saw I saw Andrew later at the hotel, and
Was
the
he at least
he
okay? Good
was in good shape.
spirits.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
good, good. Yeah, hopefully he's not just repressing everything. But yeah.
One other skater I want to make a mention of that did not qualify to the free skate, Alexander Zlatkov from Bulgaria.
Mm,
Another white crow program, and I feel like they're all derivative of Kolyada. I mean, every single program kind of has the music is one of those sets of music, like it's perfectly, at least for a free skate, it's like the exact length of the free skate. But in this case, it's the short program, and the music kind of lends itself to this is where the step sequence needs to be, this is where the spins need to be. So all the programs are probably going to look pretty similar. Um, Beautiful skating. When I say the composition of
yeah.
this program probably should have been among the highest of the entire field, like no joke. This was a really well choreographed program. He has a really nice style. His carriage and his
Yep.
flow is nice. Obviously, not the jumps to be competitive and make the free skate. But out of all the early groups, I think maybe he was in group one. I'm pretty sure he was definitely a highlight for me.
I'm trying to remember what was the jump content in the short program? I don't really remember it. I remember it
It
being
was
something to
double.
where he needs
I think it was just a double axle. I'm pretty sure.
right.
Um,
Like he's somebody I want to see at the Olympics, but I know it's going to be a lot of
yeah,
luck. He's
yeah.
not going to be able to just rely on skating
Jump
clean
his
to
way
get
in.
it. Yeah. And especially considering like how many big feds are trying to get another spot.
Right.
I
Yeah.
don't remember how they are. Yeah. So I really wonder too. Where he would have placed if he had skated clean. Like that was something I really wanted to see because I remember you telling me about him and being like, oh my God, he is really impressive and just that first impression of how he's skating. But yeah, I really wanted to see how he plays if he skated clean
Mhm.
instead
Yeah.
of getting a 20s in TES.
Yeah. So the state of the men's field, I think the men are by far just the most stacked in the world. Ice dance, you can make an argument, but there's a clear top three or four there. In the men, it's kind of like you have your favorites, but there's probably 15 skaters that could end up in the top six in any given
Yeah.
competition. Really, it's
Yep.
it's so and that makes the entire competition from start to finish. It's like any of these skaters can have a really big moment in group one. We saw Adam last year, we knew he was going to climb up regardless, but it's just so stacked that every group brings this extra level of excitement. You feel like, group three could be a final group almost. I'm really amazed, and I think that the diversity of the programs is really strong. Also in men's skating, I think that we have so much unique talent.
Yeah.
We get a lot of different types of skating, and I really like
Yep.
that.
Yeah, it's the variety. Yeah, it meant skating. I just remember it being the worst discipline, right? It used to be the worst discipline because everything was a mess. Under
Beginning
rotations
of
everywhere,
IJS
boring
was successful.
programs.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really tough on the men. But now I feel like the field has really grown into the rules and everything. You have skaters who grew up in the system. It's so good. We were was it group two or three where we were just like, how is this just group three? This is should be the final group.
Really, yeah.
Was it group two? Yeah, group
Yeah.
two was already feeling like impressive, right? And so. I think about Group Two in the free program and how any of those skaters, you put them in four continents or Europeans, they're easily in the medal hunt. And how crazy is that they're in the medal hunt in the Europeans or four continents, and then everyone in Group Three could have medaled.
Mhm.
And is just really impressive. Like I feel like of IGS hasn't really hindered the men's field as much as it has in some other fields. I don't feel like I'm sitting here wishing for more artistic programs. It's not like men's skating was ever the most artistic discipline beforehand, considering who was medaling. I mean, Joubert is a world champion, for example. Like, so in here, though, you don't feel that. I feel like men are more artistic today. The skating skills are really good from some of the top gear, some world class, some better than like skaters in the past that we've ever seen. There's so much chatter about how the loss of figures has ruined skating skills and skating, but then you look at someone like Kagayyama and you're like, no, it hasn't.
Mhm.
Like, Kagayama's world class. Kagayama's like some of the best of all time, right? Um, and when I try to think about the competition and really what I wanted more of or what I wanted less of, if I'm thinking of how to improve the men's competition, really nothing comes to mind. It was fairly well skated. There
I
was a lot of great
well,
skating. There's go ahead.
the thing is, we talk about Kagayama and how the step sequence is really a standout moment in his program. He's one of the few skaters where you can say that. Otherwise, I'm
That's
sorry.
true. True.
It's a lot of skaters are doing the same pattern or the same,
That's
you know,
true.
45
And
seconds of
that's IJS more than the
right,
skaters themselves, but yeah,
right. But I mean, and then they want to get to level 4, so they're repeating whatever. But some
you don't feel
skaters,
that.
it takes them a good 45 seconds to achieve all of this. And the thing is, I've questioned this for many years. I think it's been 2 Olympic cycles, but I almost to improve the programs as a whole and someone like Ilia maybe get these moments of beauty that we see in his exhibition. How we're going to get to that, I would say get rid of the step sequence in the free skate, keep the choreographic sequence, give them whatever, give them the
This, yeah.
plus 4
Go
plus
ahead.
5.
Sorry.
But you're opening up a good at least 30 seconds for most skaters. Are they going to make the best use of time? I would love to say yes. Probably they not all of them will. But the thing is that I don't need to see the same step sequence in both programs. I know you can do it in the short. We can go back to the days where it was called required elements. Do the step sequence as a required element in the short program, and then in the free skate, just open it up more to do moves in the field, or just skating is should be almost 50-50 on this technical and this PCS. But how much of the program is really based on PCS? Maybe a choreographic sequence for some
Right.
skaters, and that's it. So I would like to see for someone like Ilia, someone like Nika, um, maybe it will benefit them more if they have more time.
I
I
agree with
don't.
that. Yeah, because that step sequence takes 30 seconds.
Yeah,
For so many skaters, it takes 30
to
seconds.
get
Can you
5 points.
imagine
No,
giving in that time back? And when they went from 4:40 to 4 minutes for the long program, they just took out one jump sequence.
one jump.
Or sorry,
Yeah.
just one jumping pass, right? One jump, which considering the worth, even Elena Liashenko is not spending more than 10 seconds on that triple lutz. You know what I mean? Like, it's like the loss of time to interpret the program is there. And then I think the other restrictions about how they do the bonus has really kind of make it everything so
Oh my, everything's
formulaic.
the
You've
same.
been saying that for the longest time,
Everything's the same.
but I understand the wanting to skaters to actually have better program balance. So the
I
compositions
don't
is
care about
better.
that actually
I
because
don't care. 'Cause it's not like it matters. It's not like
Alina
anyone's really judging
Shidorov
that.
was revolutionary. You know what?
It
If you can
was
put all those jumps into the music and it makes sense, put all 7
and
jumps in the second half.
perfectly timed in the picks and the landings to the
Yep.
beat. It
Yep.
was it was artistically amazing, genius. It's like I remember you saying this back when she won Junior Worlds the year before. You were literally like, she's a contender for the Olympic gold. She's the favorite. She was your favorite for the Olympic gold before anyone else saw it, before the fall season where she just started destroying everybody in the senior field. And so like, yeah, you could see that. And that program's good. Regardless of what you think of Zagitova, that program's really good.
But
Even
the
if you think
thing,
it's a junior, it's the best junior program that's probably ever been.
right. But my thing about all of this is, like you said, now we're in this box where only the last 3 jumps get a
Yeah.
bonus. So
So
90% of the programs jump, 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 a spin, then some long footwork sequence to get you into the 2 minutes. As soon as that 2 minutes hits, jump, 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 choreographic sequence, spin, spin, or
yeah,
the
something like that. Right.
elements maybe in that whatever order, but it's always the
Three
first,
plus four. Yep.
and then 3 at right after 2 minutes hits, and that's it. So when you want to talk about a balanced program, I'm sorry, but like even in dance, we're seeing with this we talked about it in our second video. When you have this choreographic step in a rhythm dance now, everyone's ending with that, or they're ending with the spin, but it's one of the two things, and it's every program looks the exact same. I would like to see a rule book kind of like what they do with the choreographic elements, and you pick the ones that you want to use, but not with the scales that they use on that. I would like to see a list of options to fill out a program rather than say, you're going to do a character step that goes from board to board. For the men, it's let them do the jumps in any order they want to do them in. Um, I don't, I don't mind that there's a bonus later in the program. I think what the bonus should be is if you do a combination, maybe 1.1 for the second jump and 1.2 for the third jump. And then what you
Right, a factor, yeah.
like, if you're doing, for example, if you're doing a triple toe, double toe, but then if the next person does a double toe, triple toe, there should be a point difference in that. And that's
Right.
the most basic example, but I think that they should at least differentiate between the difficulty level of those jumps rather than worry about this bonus. I mean, I understand that the bonus is important, and skaters like Ilia try to throw in a lot of crazy stuff at the end. But it is making all the programs look very, very similar. But it's not anything new. I mean, this is really the Zagitova rule. We could call it that because
Yeah, it really
it
is.
got that down from that point, and it basically created the framework for how every program was going to look. And
And it
it's
made every short and long the same.
yeah,
Yep. 2+1 or 4+3,
yeah,
every single one. And it's almost like the most differentiation is someone like Egadze who's like, oh, he did all seven in a row. What variety?
yeah.
Like,
It
he's
is.
not like the
It is. It's
rest.
like, well,
And
how
it
you
really
do
is.
this,
Right.
But so I think that this isn't going to happen over the summer because they never really make
Yeah.
huge changes the year before the Olympics. But I really hope in 2026 they consider this. And this is really not something that's new for me. So it's frustrating that, I had a blog post in 2013, right after Worlds, and I was like, why does the GOE not be a percentage of the totals? Like why, if and my way was a little bit different than what actually got put in place, but my idea was like, if you get a -1, why is it not minus 10% or 20%? This
Right.
is exactly what they got to many years later. But this, for me, I was like, how are they not thinking of this? So I hope it's just
Right. And I love it. Like in terms of just how things make sense and how logical it is, it's like I really hated before how it's like, oh, the triple toe, triple Lutz, same GOE values, even though the triple Lutz is considered to be way more difficult.
It was like
Right.
minus zero point
It was
0.7 or something back then, or something, I think.
right. And then even then it's like they had weird situations to where it was like if you fell on a like what was it like something like crazy like if you fell on a triple toe versus falling on a double axle you got more points for
Right.
falling on a double axle as opposed to a triple toe and that didn't make sense
It didn't make any sense. No.
make any
Stuff
sense
like
so
that. I
going
mean,
on a factor is great. I love the plus 50% or minus 50% idea. um if anything I think it should be transitioning to spins, it's like I wish they would even go more with it. Like I like the 10% factor for jumps. I wish for spins, honestly, they'd be like 20%.
a little bit
To where
more.
if you did a +5 spin, that's double the points from the base value.
Right.
Finding some way to really reward spins that are done well.
Right.
Because that's one of my
Getting
least
like a
favorite things
point
about
and a half for a
IJS.
good spin, like it's
Yeah.
not, it's all of those elements besides the jumps. There's such low base value. But there's a trade-off though, because then you look at the choreographic elements and dance and the
I
outrageous
know.
way to easily earn points, but the spins are not like that because
Right.
not many skaters. We talked about Jason Brown. He's one of the few skaters where I'm like, okay, I could see this getting potentially a +5. You don't see that with most skaters. So
And
I
then most skaters are just now because the GOE values for going from a +2 to a +4, is it really worth it to work on that, or is it
right,
worth
and
it
they
to work
don't. They
on
come with the
the
same
level feature? And it's
exactly.
the level feature. You're gonna do the
Oh,
level
yeah.
feature.
Let's talk about the level features. Oh my god.
That drive me crazy. So like, I said this to an ISU official. I'm like, not all spin features are created equal. I'm sorry, an exit feature like hopping out of a spin versus a difficult variation on a camel position. That difficult variation on the camel is like
Do the
10 times
inside
more
edge,
difficult.
please. I want to see the beautiful inside edge for 6 or 8 rotation or whatever. But then you're
Or
getting
that, right? Yeah.
for going on the heel, or you're getting credit for doing the slide movement out of the jump or out of the spin. The slide movement actually drives me the most crazy.
Because they're so
It's
bad.
always reaching so oddly. Like
Right,
I don't
right.
know. Like what I don't know. This is not or
Like you're dramatically reaching even though the music isn't calling
yeah.
for it.
Or
Yeah,
the
every
cartwheels out of the
time.
music. Even
Yeah.
Jason suffers from this a little bit. There's like some random like the thing I'm like, that is so out of place for this program, but they're doing what they need to do to get the points, and I don't fault them for that. But
Right, it's the
it's
system.
those things should not be part of a spin
Right.
level.
And you're seeing this too to where like even then like the jump feature, like oh the change foot jump feature within a combination spin or even just like a single foot spin but you jump whatever. So many skaters do it so poorly, it ruins the momentum,
Oh my God, yeah,
kills
then
the
they're
GOE,
crawling
but
through the
it gives them
last.
that feature. Yeah, they're struggling. They're struggling to get those minimum rotations. And you can see it. You can see it in their brain. They're counting. They're behind the music, but they want to get that level. And I hate that. And I hate that there's this incentive to get the higher level versus the higher GOE because simply the getting higher GOE, it's what's the point? Yeah.
The those exits and those going up on the heel. I mean, in the past we saw skaters like we mentioned Ilya Klimkin. I think he did some really creative
Yeah,
spin.
he was.
He would hold his arms just like in place, and he would do these variations on these just upright spins that were really cool.
Or like the today they would call it a combination spin, but the two camels, one direction, one the other,
And
and then
then
in the one
triple
that's his
sock.
natural rotation, yeah, and a triple sock power out of it. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Um, Stuff like that would be cool, but they get the ugliest movements that it never fits the music. It just never fits the music.
Never. And it's
So
been the worst change. This quad, that's been the worst change. When did that implemented? Like last year where they started doing these exit features and
I
expanding
think,
them?
yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
That
And I
that
know they did that because they restricted like difficult variations only counted once now across two programs, or something like that. And so they had to kind of open it up for some
No,
skaters, but it's
they could
just
find something else. They could find like
yeah.
there has to be something else because this is not. It's it just makes the programs ugly. I don't know.
And so when someone has really great spins, it's like why I appreciate Adam so much because you would think that he's this crazy kind of like our athletic skater and the amount of quads he can do. That's kind of really what's pushing him, the backflip. But his spins, he actually wants to rotate fast at the end of a program. He
Yeah.
understands the artistic impression that has. Whereas a skater like Ilya even still suffers from spins that in practice look way better than they do in
Right.
performance. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of what else. I mean I was really excited at first when 2019 when the choreographic elements came into dance. In theory,
Oh, we're gonna go to
like
dance.
this is going to
Okay,
make the
yeah.
program
I
so much. But this is tied into because I'm really thinking like when we talk about why is skating suffering or why do some people not find the joy in the skating, I think people will argue it's a bunch of different things, but I think you need to go down to the foundations and it is what the programs are asking for that make the programs not enjoyable. If you
right.
make the programs able to be have these bigger moments, then I mean, that will we're all ultimately watching for that exciting moment. We're technicians and we've honed in on all these rules, but at the end of the day, I want to have like a Kevin Aymoz moment from Skate America. If that could
Right.
or an Alyssa moment from Worlds, everyone wants that. So I thought to myself at first, I was like, oh, maybe they need to introduce choreographic elements in single skating, but seeing how it's just really a manipulation of GOE, I don't, it's going to be some skaters way down the ranks are going to be doing like Taljegard from Sweden. I can imagine her coming up with some really cool stuff. And, because she doesn't really have the technical content, she's going to be resorted to these 0 +1 +2, whatever. And then you have
Right.
someone that doesn't do anything getting +5. So I don't think
I
I
mean,
don't
it's yeah.
no, go ahead. I
Okay, it's
don't
even like Ilia's choreo sequence, right? I'm pretty sure when we were in the arena, it went all you could see all plus fives, right? 2.5 points.
yeah,
I'm
it was
glad in
the
singles
first
it's only 2.5
yeah.
is the max you get on the choreo sequence. But even then, I'm like, that's not a plus five element. That slide was really clunky. He did. He seems tired. His Ilia things like the backflip, the aspirate
It's the
twist were
audience
great,
reaction. I'm
right?
telling
Yay, right? But everything else outside of that was not that great. I would have been like, okay, plus three, plus four, maybe plus four if I'm being nice that day, but it's plus three element to me. But just by the virtue of skate order, by the virtue of the he has all these quads, it's an easy for a judge to be like plus five.
you.
But someone else does that same choreo sequence in group one, they're getting plus two, plus three
Yeah,
max.
yeah.
And then you see that magnified in dance so
Oh
much.
yeah.
That and
I don't think
I
that's the
know,
answer though. Like but we have to get to like, all right, if adding all these kind of whatever element you want to do, whether it be a slide or whatever, if that's not the answer, then I truly think you take the step sequence out. I'm so
the choreo steps.
no, the actual
Oh, you mean the
steps.
singles?
for singles. Going back
Sorry,
to singles.
singles. Okay.
Yeah. So I
Yeah, I
really
agree.
feel strongly like get rid of this element, and hopefully it just opens up enough. Maybe like loosen the spin requirements a little bit. I mean, I would rather see like a long held spin than a million variations that we probably saw in the short program anyways. Um, I just want to see more of a program. And the only way you're going to get that, you only have 4 minutes, right? You have one element that's taking 30 to 45 seconds. Like it's to me, it's common sense that getting rid
Yeah.
of this element, you would someone like Ilia, I think he would benefit tremendously. I mean, it's not that his step sequence is bad, it's great, but the thing is he would have more time to show what he showed in his exhibition than what we see in his competitive free skates over and over and over again. It is such a mad rush for some skaters. There is not 1 ounce of choreography in some of those programs. If we're being realistic on this component scores, they should not be getting, like there's
No.
nothing there. In
Yeah.
at Europeans, Chris Howarth was ripping into some of the skaters in the men's free skate. Like there is no choreography in this program, but that's nothing new. It's always been like that since IGS.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
even
would say, well, I don't know. It's kind of like that with men's. I don't know. Like I felt like even when the '90s, when men's skating didn't, weren't hadn't have all these restrictive rules from IJS, there was still this big kind of split between these artistic skaters and
and the
not.
technical,
And the
yeah,
artistic skaters were barely doing any choreography or transitions back then too.
yeah,
It's not like it really changed. I don't
yeah.
think that's an IJS thing, but I see what you mean with the flaws. Paris is fine with the step sequence in the short and the choreo in the long. I can see that in singles too, just to free up this 30
Get rid of the
seconds
death spirals, though. I mean, they got rid of the spirals in
in the
the
short or
competition
in the long.
20 years ago. I mean, honestly, keep it. I guess
Overall,
keep it in the
forever.
short, but like when you
Yeah,
give
keep it
these
short.
these odd edges that no one can do, it's like, oh my God. I don't know.
Some people can't. Okay, so like I think about Sway and Han. They found a way to make all the death spirals look
Yep.
good. Even the
Yep.
forward outside death spiral. I loved their forward outside, but I can see to where you're talking about. Like I don't want to see Stellato and yeah, no, I don't need to see Dana Stellato do a forward
Alakina
outside death
like
spiral
struggled.
ever again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Um, with Paris though, it's one of those things to where like I kind of more or less like where the field is now though. I don't think I remember you saying this earlier. I don't think a lot of changes need to be made.
um,
I could see maybe giving me the death spiral in the long, but that's about it. I don't really see anything else I'd want to change about the
yeah,
discipline.
I think we see some really well choreographed programs in pairs. I mean, there's skaters obviously that skate right through the music still. I think that's just what skating is. That's the beautiful thing about skating. We
Yeah.
see skaters that really are strong at one thing and not the other. Obviously you want to see teams that do a combination of both, but I think pairs is actually all right. If anything, the thing that kind of bothers me is these double axle sequences that literally end up in every
Yeah.
direction. I know for the longest time I wondered why a double axle, what if you step right into it, why it wouldn't be considered like basically a combination, right? And then they ended up doing where it essentially is now. So everyone's doing it to max out their jumping blocks. But like even the Italians, Conti and Mazzi, they'll do their triple toe. They'll do a double axel. She like turns and looks and sees what he's going to do for the third jump, and they end up in different directions. And they're not even the worst offenders. Just she makes it so obvious
Yeah.
she's watching. Um,
I remember you saying that, and I looked for it. I'm like, oh my God, she does.
yeah,
She
she's like,
looks right
oh,
at
it's
it.
sort of, yeah. But it just it doesn't matter. I mean, even skaters doing individual side by side triple toes, sometimes they end up in different directions, and you're not going to avoid that. But when it's three jumps, most of them are not on timing at all. Most of them are literally facing like opposite directions when they're coming out. It's just not, maybe, I don't know. I want them to get as many points as they can, but at the same time, it's like they've all maxed themselves out on these double axle combinations that are ugly to begin with. So it's like, do we really need that? I don't know. Well, dance is your favorite, so let's talk
Oh,
some
good.
things dance.
Yeah, it really, I know we talked about this a lot. I think it's going back to the choreo elements. I think they've just gone crazy with them. When they first got introduced, they were zero value elements. We still had some great programs. Virtue and Mark created some great programs. The Papa Docs and Cicerone created some great programs. We don't necessarily need these choreo elements to have all these value, but I think those teams and did it so well There was this hope that it could just maybe, like you said, make the sport more popular, make it appeal more to a general audience. But it was those skaters that made those programs and those performances special. It wasn't the elements that really opened it up. And I feel like don't give them that options. They're still doing some great things,
Mhm.
right? Um, for me, though, it's the balance. We talked about this when we talked about ice dance, but it's how much you can earn in GOE that has shifted the power completely to the judging panel in so many ways in these competitions, almost too much in that direction. Like so, for example, in the rhythm dance, the GOE value for the choreo steps, you can get a maximum of seven and a
Okay.
half points.
GOE.
That is
Yeah.
just in GOE, because it's a 2 point base value element. So if you're seeing
But
this
it's
now
an
to where it's just
easy
protocol
seven and a
adjusted.
half points.
And it's
That's
an
the thing.
easy 7.5 points depending on who you are. Right, exactly. You could be that team who can almost do anything, and you're going to get fours and fives.
Mhm.
And you can be that team who's doing something really great, really musical, really difficult, really complex, and perform it really well. But you're in group one or two, and you're getting a two or a three
Right.
max. Or you can do something average and just get a zero.
Yeah.
Whereas the top team
Not-
doing an average steps or character step is going to get two or three. And
I
that
think
differentiation is what really makes everything. Go ahead, sorry.
that should not be any part of the rhythm dance. I mean,
I
the
agree.
juniors had two pattern steps, right? The juniors had
Yeah, that's how seniors used to be too. They used to
and
do
they
two patterns
rotated
of some
though. Like,
compulsory.
the man leads on one of the steps, and then the woman has to lead on the other step. And we saw it actually in senior. The woman opted to lead on the step, rather they kind of twisted it, which was within the rules, but that's only one step. So in juniors, you're actually really going back to these, like, the pattern step is so meticulous in the way that it's scored. It's hard for the average fan to really, know what
But
the level.
it's
It's
really
better.
hard for the average fan to know anything,
Yeah.
honestly, about ice dance. I'm not saying that as like a pejorative or like as being critical. It's just the rules are so complex today. Josh loves to tell everybody that like I sleep with like the rule book next
Yeah.
to our bed, but I do. I really
Well,
do with the ice dance. It just makes it really easy to be like, oh, I forgot this. Let's go
yeah.
refresh that because the rules are really complex. And so this whole idea of us making things more simple for the audience, I don't understand that. It's not like you're actually making it simple. If anything, if I'm going to sit here and try to explain to someone how a choreographic element is judged, I can't.
You
I
can't.
really can't tell you.
Vibes. It's fine.
Vibes. It's vibes.
Does it match the
So are they
music?
looking for
The
difficulty?
audience
No.
cheer? Yeah, like
Right. What are they looking for?
that's
I,
what
I
it
honestly
is.
couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
Right.
Why was
Hmm.
this one? Yeah, I mean, if you would do a study where you would show like one of the first group teams do their character step in the rhythm dance, and then you show one of the last group teams, and you have this conflict of where, oh, the first group team had the more pleasing aesthetic, whatever one you want to say. How can anyone explain? All these bullet points to get this positive GOE are so subjective
Right.
anyways. It's like,
And the character stuff when it first came out, I remember being like, "Oh, cool! This is like a nice, unique
yep,
thing they're
yep.
doing and everything." But then it was just like, "Oh, okay, it's the last element. Oh, the music changed. They're hamming it up. They're walking right at the judges.
Now they're
Oh,
doing an
great! And
Irish
now
jig out
dramatic
of nowhere.
pose.
Like, okay.
Right, right. Oh, now they're Olympic silver
So
medalists. Yay!
yeah, yeah,
But it's like I would love them to just do away with the element altogether.
yeah.
Because what they did was they took an actual step sequence and more or less just replaced it with
Made a
this
joke out of it.
choreographic step. And now they made it to where you don't even need it. You can do any choreo element, but just get rid of it. I say keep the other choreo elements, maybe find ways to create new ones or I don't know, but I'm really not a fan of the choreo steps in either program anymore. It's made it very formulaic for most teams.
Yeah.
I
No,
remember,
you're gonna end the program in the free dance. You're gonna end the program with the same thing that you just did in the rhythm dance for most teams, and that's
right,
and one of my big issues.
step lift step.
But well, the thing is, I like a program that flows out and really covers ice and what the choreographic
Yeah.
elements have done. And I even said this about Papadikis Cizeron, who
It's true. It's true. The last year, yeah.
their last year, like that free dance was great, but the last 45 seconds, maybe more, it was all around center ice doing these like relatively small
Yep.
choreographic elements, and it's really not flowing out. And if the best skaters in the world are doing this, you imagine all the other teams, it's just it kills the momentum of the program. It almost forces a music change. It's not as pronounced now as it used to be. We saw some wild, like we saw this beautiful program, and in the last 45 seconds they're having some dance party. Like it's like it doesn't make sense. So but that's what the rules are, and much like in single skating, how You do those 4 jumps to start, you do those 3 jumps in the second half. Dance in the last minute or so, they're doing assisted lifts, for example, that cover no ice. It's just like it's just it kills the flow of the program. I don't love it. I wish we would just see them go through an entire program like they used to. Peak years of dance were really probably the 90s and maybe even the late 80s and or mid 80s, but I wish it would go back to more of that.
I hope just a free for all for the most part, instead of it
Not
being
a
so
free for all, but
structured.
like don't put it so rigid that
Yeah.
everybody's going to do the same thing. Um,
Even within the rigidity before, though, I felt like their teams could really break out. Like Pop and Zero found a way. Like I still think about Le Parc and the Mozart, and how it just hit me like a ton of bricks that they were able to tell this story, that you could feel it, that there was just this innocence to it. It's almost like it brings you back to being just a dumb kid. I've now fallen in and out of love for the 10th time, but every time it feels
yeah.
like the biggest deal. And that's what that program is, and it brought me back to that place. And I don't see why teams still can't do that, other than the fact that they're just making things more and more and more formulaic. And by giving teams this flexibility, they're actually going backwards. And I don't think they see that.
Let me ask you something. I know that the singles and pairs technical committee is separate of ice dance technical
Yeah.
committee. They're completely different people. Most people in this sport that have followed forever don't know anything about ice dance. That's just how it is.
Yeah.
Why is it that for pairs they decided two shall skate as one and these elements are counted as one? If one skater does a triple toe, the other does a single toe, it is a single toe. That is the value of the thing. Ice dance now, a lot of these elements are judged individually. So you
Yeah.
can still gain kind of massive points based on the strength of one partner, even if the other partner is a disaster the entire program. Do you think that's fair? And why do you think they did it in the first place?
I mean, they publicly said why they did it. They publicly said why they did it just to make it less punitive.
Yes,
If one
but
partner biffs it, then there's still some points. And I think back to what was it, 2014 Worlds, where Nikita just totally biffs that
and they missed.
twizzle, and they get 0 points, right? But then if she had gotten the points for that, they would have won the world title.
Yeah.
Right. And that's like one of those biggest things where I think that's kind of what the ISU was looking at, the technical committee was looking at. But the way I see it now, to where it's too easy, because they've not only split the elements calling for most of the steps. I think
Yeah.
the only one that isn't are like the partial and the rhythm
Yeah.
dance, right? Or
Yeah.
the pattern step.
Pattern.
But everything else is split. But then they've also, what they've done is they've made the base level value differences
Mhm.
in each level of each element smaller in dance,
Mhm.
and putting more points into the GOE. So it's really made it to where actual performance in the elements, meeting requirements for levels, matters so much less in dance. Everything is now just GOE, GOE, GOE. And the only time to where these level differences matters is where you're splitting hairs at the top for medals sometime.
Mhm.
But that's it, right? It's not like it's really going to vault you anywhere.
Right.
Some team, it's not like back in 2000, was it 17 Worlds, where like Hubble and Donahue were third place based on levels. So few teams now are going to do that, surpass and make those big jumps out
The
of that
levels don't
hierarchy.
really, it's all
Because they
about
don't matter as much.
the
They don't matter really as
choreography.
much.
You think about how many there are and how much GOE you can just gain from that. It
Mhm.
just that +3 to +4, or the +2 to +4, whatever. That's where the points are really, really
Right.
separating the team.
Right. And it's, I think they're trying to avoid situations too. I still think about that really close U.S. Nationals. I think it was 2016 between the Shibutanis and Chalk and Bates.
Right?
And it was all decided based on one level call.
Yeah.
Right. 3 versus 4 by the panel. Right. And I still think they should be called as the same. I think you should live and die based on the weakest partner always. Just because that's just the nature of what the sport is.
Right.
You are a pair, you are a team. So if one person biffs that opening rotation of the twizzle, I'm sorry, 0 points. Because how much value was there in me as an
And
audience
that's the
member, as a
thing.
sport, watching someone stand around
But that, like,
waiting, you
you
know?
think about like men's skating, like these skaters that have disasters in the short program, they don't qualify. It's in dance, it's like, okay, one partner makes a mistake and you might drop a place or two. Well, we saw actually if it's a really big disaster like the Lithuanians, then you might
A
not. But
really big one, right?
generally,
Exactly.
generally, like it's to keep the results kind of static for the most part by limiting what you can actually fault in a program unless it is a complete disaster, and I don't know why in all the other fields, you have a disastrous short program, you might not qualify. For dance, you make a few small.
You're right. They've removed that whole they've removed that. They've made that way less punitive to make a mistake. Whereas before it was ice dance was that sport where you more or less expected everyone to be clean all the time. It's no longer that sport anymore,
And
but
actually, the choreographic elements are the ones that kill you. If you mess up on those, then you're throwing up points,
right, right.
So it's like
Exactly. Because you're just throwing tons of GOA points away. Exactly,
just
right. Because
nutty.
there's nothing to gain in the levels. Yeah.
Um,
And just the balance is all off in ice dance now. And even then, it's things like with the choreographic elements, getting that exclamation, right? I even then they introduced that to make it way nicer. Oh, now just losing off one GOE and your maximum
oh yeah,
GOE now
before
is
it used to be like
three.
negative
Before it was
one
invalidated, completely invalidated. I
or
still
that. And
remember watching
yeah.
a very opinionated ice dance caller basically force the rest of her colleagues to invalidate elements for top teams.
Mhm.
But totally trite, totally
I mean,
within the rules, should have happened. And
if
then
you're
we had that
reading the rules,
conversation too with another ice dance technical specialist caller who was saying the same things. Like certain time, you will have personalities on the panel that are way outsized.
Mhm.
But even then, this idea that like I don't know, I have a lot of problems with ice dance right now. And I think a lot of it's just the balance and the silver correction.
Yeah.
And I know they were trying to take things away from the technical panel to put more power into the hands of the judges, but it's too far in that direction. I'm okay with the way some of these GOE values are now, but I'm sorry, in the short program or the rhythm dance, you should not be getting 7.5 GOE for the character step. How is this worth almost as much as the base value of a level four Twizzles? Like it's insanity. I don't. It shouldn't be any higher than like 2.5 points. Make it like singles, a half a point for every GOE grade, right? Up the base value, but it just puts everyone at a more level playing field. And then the difference between a +1 and a +5 is just 2 points,
Yeah.
right? You're still giving me entertaining. You're still entertaining me for earning that
But it's not
+4 or
it's
being
not the do
given
or die
that. You're still
element.
getting right, but it's not making or breaking the
The
entire
do or die
competition.
manipulative element because it's so
Right.
subjective. Like you
Mhm.
could give whatever score you want and then go argue it and be like, okay, that's fair. You know,
Mhm. And then in the free dance, each the max GOE for each choreo element is 4.15, and then the element has a weird value of a 1.1, so you can get 5.25. But even then, it's like, okay, 0.83 per GOE is way too high. In total, that max GOE you can get in the free dance is over 12 points. And I mean, just looking at a team, 4 versus 5, right? That's separating the teams by 2.5 points,
Right.
+4 +5 on these choreo elements, to where most of the audience isn't going to really be able to tell the difference between a +4 and a +5 element. And it's not even like the judges truly understand the
No,
difference between a
no.
+4 or a
And
+5
listen, I'm just
choreographic
I'm just gonna
element.
say it. We talked to a lot of
Yeah.
people that are very high up, and when you present yourself as somebody that knows the rules, they're very almost immediately they're willing to talk about what they think.
They
And
want to. No, they do. They're nerds. They
so
they
we
want they want to talk to people.
we
Yeah.
did talk to somebody, and I said I was pointing out some of the calls for some of the top teams, and I was like, if I was on this panel, I would give a +1, and I would go sit in the round table, and I would explain line by line why it's not a +4, it's a +1. And this person who's very high up said they wouldn't do it personally, but they said, listen, if you throw out that score, the problem is you will never be on a panel ever again. That was word by word
Right.
what this person told me.
Literally verbatim. Right. And
So it's
mhm.
it's interesting to me that it's like we talk about this corridor. I wrote a piece right after 2010 Olympics, and it was all about this corridor judging and how people just maybe don't they judge what they think everyone else is going to judge or just play it safe
That
or
is what you're doing because
rise
you want
the
to keep your
score.
job. It's
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
incentivizing that because if you're out of the corridor, you have to explain yourself and you
And I
face
will,
disciplinary
the
action.
thing is, I would explain myself, but that doesn't mean I'm going to get assignments in the future. It's
That
up to your
and
post.
that suspension report that just came out to where they finally were like, "Hey, Yuri, it's finally been enough."
Yeah,
But even that,
it took
one of the
25
consequences
years.
they saw of his antics is that his antics put other judges' reputation at risk because the corridor system accidentally called them out when in
Yeah.
reality it was a manipulation that caused them to be out of sync with the rest of the panel. But just even then, like you're seeing that to where how you think the rest of the panel will judge is important and matters if you want to keep judging.
So I guess ultimately this whole thing is there's a lot of questionable things that ISU is doing. For example, they're promoting the hell out of Adam doing a backflip last year when it's an illegal element. Please tell me, in what kind of federation do you promote a move that is not getting any points? It's getting a deduction actually of 2 points, but you're like, oh my God, look at what he did in his program. Isn't this exciting? It
It's the same ISU that's showing clips of quad loops to
I
where
don't know,
there's
way of
really only 3 rotations in the air. Yeah,
it doesn't
or not even.
I just don't understand the choices sometimes. Like ultimately, I guess I'm glad the backflip is back. It's not overdone its
Right.
course yet. I think eventually it probably will.
It
Um,
will. Yeah.
but
I mean, honestly, I think it already has. It's lost its luster to me.
yeah.
I see it and I'm not like, oh, that's so cool. I see it. I'm like,
And we
okay,
saw it in the '90s and all the pro competition. There were so many skaters
right.
that were doing it. So it's I guess introduce it back to singles or introduce it back to eligible competition, whatever. But I don't know. I feel like the ISU is run by a bunch of people that have been there way too long, and it's like the people that are running it are trying to be these cool kids again, and they don't have any
Right.
grip on what really is would be popular. I think some of the younger fandom that has come in is more like you and I are, where they're really into reading the protocols and they want to understand the how and the why of everything, rather than just like, oh, this program, the music was great, I loved it. I like that. I wish that the ISU would stop reaching for these viral moments on social media because
Right.
is it really keeping fandom? It might,
Because
but
viral moments are organic, and I don't think they understand that. Like it's a je ne sais quoi to it, right? It's like when that Sound of Silence program from James and Cypress, went viral. I had people asking me about it, and I'm like, it's not like the best choreographed program, but yeah, it's cool.
Mhm.
And they're just like, I remember reading comments too. It's like, oh wow, he just like throws her into that quad sock cow, which they don't even land cleanly. But people are like, that's amazing. And I'm sitting here, I'm like,
but it's the ISU I think needs to stop us
stop trying to make fetch happen. Yeah,
very much,
that's
very
kind of the way I think about it. Yeah, they really are trying to force it when in reality it's just like making the sport good, the best it can be in terms of like just a pure sport, the one that is competitive, that you can explain the results, that makes sense to people.
I
It's
want it to be
almost
all of the competitive in the world. I want I'm a big fan of, pushing the limits technically. I love it. I love that some skaters are able to distance themselves on that
right.
fact. But I also want to see my biggest thing goes back to these programs. Give them time to actually get a program out there. The free skate is another short program with four more jump elements. That's all it is basically at this point in a
Right, exactly.
choreographic sequence. Um, just give them time to actually develop a character in the program or develop a mood. I think dance, there's been some real winners, even with the rules. You think about Smart and Deke and you think about Tequila and versus Luis, they very different programs, but it tells a story. In women's skating, especially, I don't feel that so much anymore.
Yeah,
Alyssa's
it's gone.
it is a whole mood, and that was exciting. But I really want
But
like story to
it's
develop.
exciting,
Yeah.
right? But even then, it's just like you're saying, it's a mood. It's just a vibe. It's just fun. It's not like it's this really serious program. And even from a competitive standpoint, from a composition standpoint, it's not the strongest program. It covers, like I said before, it covers like no Ys in second half. There's not a lot of choreography other than I'm on 2 feet and I'm just having a great time.
But I
But I
want
think the
I
women's
want
skating's also to where that's kind of the most we can expect from a
I
lot of
feel
the
like they all
skaters.
plow through their programs now.
Yeah.
I kind of miss the slow section that everyone knew was coming in 6.0. This is your rest moment, but these are some of the most beautiful moments. When you think about some of the most memorable programs, you you know it's coming and you have these I don't know, just thinking about Michelle Kwan's like slow sections and all these really, really, really good programs.
Oh, even her post 2002, where she was doing no transitions or choreography, those slow sections were still really enjoyable because it's Michelle Kwan. She's extending, she's sensitive,
Yeah.
she's doing these crossovers to the music. But a lot of that is lost though. Now, yeah, they're just not even listening. They're just
Let
plowing
them put
through.
some spirals back in, or I don't know. Like don't make
That
it.
too. Oh,
Uh,
I meant to mention that when we're talking about singles, the choreographic elements too are becoming very much like with so many options that skaters can do. They're doing these spread eagles, they're doing these Ina Bowers, right? Or these like cool slides, right? No one knows how to do a spiral.
Nina Pinzeroni does. She does it.
but it's not amazing. It's
No,
not like something to where I'm sitting here. I'm like, ah,
no, it's not a Quan or a Quebec
right.
spiral.
And I noticed that to where people are cheering for what in the 90s Dick Button would have trashed on
Yeah,
TV.
of course.
You
Oh,
know what I mean?
those three jump combinations that go every direction, people are go wild over those still. I'm like,
Right.
they did a double toe, double loop on the end. Like it's not really yay, but those are it's just that's been always
But
interesting.
I was clapping for that mediocre spiral too.
Yeah.
I think it's just one thing that we're missing, and I would love to bring spiral sequences back too, just for that, or like allow you to do it in place of a choreo sequence. Maybe give some
Give you a
incentive for
whole
it.
list of options.
Right, give you some options, right? But I would love to see that kind of like risk choice too in some ways. Like you can do a leveled spiral sequence. There's a possibility of earning more points because we're actually going to give you levels and base value. But your GOE is going to be harsh. If you're doing poor, there's no extension, there's no turnout. Do a choreo sequence,
I heard
right? To where the maximum potentials may be higher for a spiral sequence, but there's a greater risk. Yeah.
I have hope that things are going to get there because like I said, I said in 2013, I'm like the scale of values needs to be on percentage points. I was very early on in saying this is what it needs, and it eventually got to that. They saw the light. Like this is not by my doing, but I think they probably brought someone in that maybe is a little bit better at statistics
Who
and math.
knows math? I was
Yeah,
about to say, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I have hope. I have hope that they'll eventually get around to getting rid of some of the people that have been there for a long time, and maybe I have hope that some of the recent hires and recent appointments will get fresher faces into the rules and into the how to make the programs really make sense. And really this is figure skating. This is elements, but there's also that second component to it.
Right.
And I think it's missing. And hopefully we get more of those memorable programs that you want to rewatch and you want to make your VCR break because you've rewound it so many times. I want
I want to ask you that. What have you rewatched since Worlds? I've only rewatched two programs.
actually nothing because I went straight to work right after.
That's right. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah, I only rewatched two. Rewatched Alyssa and I rewatched Smart and Deke.
I
Dune.
rewatched
That's it.
Alyssa because I my big head and this is something actually I'll say. So I went to work and I had put on my Instagram a clip of me being shown in the audience right in front of Scott Hamilton and Christy Yamaguchi. Alyssa's waiting for remarks. And some of the people I work with, they saw it on my Instagram story and they're like, "Oh, your big head was in the way." So that's all I heard about her for one night after I went back to work. So I rewatched Alyssa for sure. Um, I rewatched Ilia's exhibition actually. My own video
Mhm.
that I put on Instagram. I rewatched that. Uh, Other than that, I probably did rewatch Smart and Deke just to see how it came across on TV. Um, I don't know. I was stuck in an airport for so long and I was delirious because I didn't
I
sleep.
would say like, yeah, you
I
were
have
up for like over 24 hours
30,
through
30.
the weather delays. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I was up for 36 hours straight or something, but I'm sure I watched more while I was sitting there. I was so delirious. I don't remember. But it's not as if I want to go back and rewatch most of this stuff anyways. And I still to this day can pretty much anything from 96 to about 2002 or 2003. It's like in my memory photographic, because I
It's
watched.
so crazy that like you're better slash worse in a way, whatever, who wants this skill than I am because I feel like I memorize things pretty well, but you literally are. You're like once or twice and you're just like, I know it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So hopefully we get back to those days of more enjoyable programs.
I'm
I
really curious too. One last thing, yeah, the more enjoyable programs, and I think all of it just stems from the fact that again they need to open it up, give more time, flexibility, and then incentivize the right things that would make them more entertaining. But even that, like, I'm really curious your thoughts too. They went to three components versus five. I honestly don't miss having five. I thought I would. I
I
was
don't
such
miss it
a
either.
stickler. Yeah, I don't because not like they were usually using them
You know
appropriately.
what? I used to hone in on transitions, but let's be real. Like
Right, same.
transitions were the same value as an entire skating skills foundation of the skating. Like that's a little bit wild to me. Like
Right, right.
I don't know. I don't miss that it's. I like that it's three. I think that the three that they have are very to the point, and it is what should be looked at in the second mark, if you will. Um, I it's hard because there's a the thing that ends up happening is you get a skater like Kagayyama, and I'm going to go back to the men. He's most likely going to score somewhere from 90 to 95 depending on the day. A lot of the other top skaters are right around that as well, whether it's deserved or not. So there's not a lot of from the top 10 in the world, there's maybe like a 10 points difference, more or less.
Yeah.
The top skaters are maybe scoring the skaters in the top 10, 83, 84, 85, somewhere around that. Technically, you can just be so far out there. But someone like Kageyama, really, if you're looking at the second mark, he should be able to be really far out there on the second mark. So
Yeah.
there's no way that's going to be able to
Like a
balance
10-point lead on most of the field. Yeah.
unless you go back to a 6.0 system where it's, you just throw out whatever score you want and you make the result happen that you want to based on that second mark, more or less. That's what happened in 6.0 more often than not. I don't know. There's no real way to. In the early days, they put it at 100 points because they thought 100 points was going to be like the technical maximum, and now we see people go
I
way.
know.
So
Naive.
there's really no fair way. I just think
Yeah, there's not. And
this.
it's not like it's 6.0, it's not like the second mark was ever judged completely fairly and
No, it's
independently
not.
of the technical mark anyway,
You
right?
see a
Yeah.
short program with required deductions, and then you more or less did what you wanted with that second mark to get the skater into the placement you wanted more often than not.
Right. And if you were someone who didn't have a triple Lutz, it's not like you were getting higher than like 5.6 in the second mark anyway.
I would
In the women's, that wasn't happening.
I just want to see more of I love we love the rules. We love the technical rules, but I want to see more of the skating.
Right.
It's inherent though. Like it's not every skater is really going to have the ability to sell a program. And that's the beauty of skating because everybody's so different. But I just want to see the option there for skaters to be rewarded big in that second set of scores. And I also want to see the programs just be more of a program rather than, a sprint from I got to do all these elements and then maybe my choreographic step I might put a smile in and I might do a half of a spread eagle and
Right, right, right.
that's
It's
my
it's
art.
right. It's the final 90 seconds. I can finally listen to and interpret the
Yeah.
music. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
hopefully moving forward, I think the step sequence again in the singles, I think that would make hopefully in my mind it's going to make a huge world of change. With dance, I think the choreographic elements again, they need to be not the make or break situation because that's foolish to me to just have something that's so subjective anyways be really what determines those top scores and the separations of the top skaters from the rest. We'll see what the ISU does. They're trying to move more modern and I still love skating. I'm not going to give up on skating. There's just some things that I see where I think I don't know how other people are not, especially people that I know in the sport that are higher up that really feel the kind of the same way. I'm like, why are you not angling it in this way? What can you do? It
My
is what.
answer to that is probably just a general level of cynicism that they have more or less accepted.
Yeah.
That's where I'll leave it.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
We've covered the entire worlds. We've covered how Boston was.
Right.
One thing I do want to mention at the end, though, is I was able to attend Boitano Lounge for 2 nights.
Oh, that's right.
Second night was there was a fire alarm in the building and everybody had to leave early, so that was unfortunate. But thank you to the people that made Boitano Lounge happen for me. It was a great experience just talking to all the skaters. Everyone was really receptive. Quite a few skaters actually approached me. Which was nice. I'm at the end, I'm just a fan that's been around for a long time, but I had some really good conversations. I had some one-on-ones that were great. I asked some questions that were maybe, a little more detailed for the skaters, following them as closely as I do. I really wanted to know things that were going on, how people felt. But I got that opportunity, seeing a lot of skaters that I've known in the past, a lot of coaches. I saw people from my generation that I've known for 20 plus years. It was nice to see. Overall, it was really exciting to be there. The opportunity that we both got to be around all of those Olympic champions and VIPs was, it was like firsthand, like really an experience above everything.
It was
So
really cool. Honestly, it was like this the combination of just like luck, right? And then and this us being just really straightforward and forthcoming and just treating everybody like they're people. And I think that's one of the biggest things is that like as fans, we do remember that they're all just people. Talk to them like they're people. That's what they don't want you to treat them like they're different or others. They want to feel that. And I think that's why it was really easy for us to have conversations because we were just treating them like they're people. We were treating them with a level of respect, but not necessarily overly deferential. But it's so funny. It sounds like these experiences that you had in the Patana Lounge and everything, the things that you fixate on, that coolness. And for me, it's like it literally was ruining a live broadcast segment.
Oh yeah, so
I think about this all the time,
I'll
and
add
I
the
just
video
laugh.
in. I'll add the video in after.
Oh yeah, yeah, or just post it separately or whatever you
No, no,
want to
no.
do
I'll
with
add it to
that.
the end of this video. It's
Oh,
fine.
okay.
Just really quick, what happened was Mike Tirico, who works for NBC Sports, came to our section and he was in the back row. I was in the row directly in front of that, and Thomas was in the row in front of me. And Mike Tirico very loudly was telling everybody, he was like, we're about to be live in 45 seconds, blah, 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 blah. I need everybody to sit. Like, if you can, just look across the arena at the cameras
I
or
heard none of this.
at the
I heard
camera.
none of it.
So Thomas was in his own world, which I don't blame him because this was very like you tell someone 45 seconds, then you tell someone 15 seconds. It's like, if you're not turned around listening to him, you're not
And I just want you all to know that this is not the backdrop. Literally, this is the
right
men's warm
before
up.
the
It's
second
almost
to final.
over.
Yeah.
Jason Brown is about to skate,
Yeah.
and so they're literally having this live broadcast going on.
Yeah.
I have no recollection. I'm just looking at the warm up clock, and I'm like, there's 5 seconds left. Oh no, Jason! Once they call his name, it's 30 seconds.
Yeah.
We have a friend who's literally in the aisle talking to somebody he knows, and I'm like, my mind's just on he needs to get you know, in his seat because he should not be standing and getting in his seat while Jason Brown is skating. And that's literally where my mind was. That's all I was thinking
So what
about.
happened? So what happens? Mike Tirico literally says, okay, 15 seconds. Is everybody ready? He goes live on NBC broadcast and he's not even probably 5 seconds into this live broadcast. You see Thomas and all the other people in his row just stand up and block everybody. Everyone is blocked from the camera. And you see me, I'm like, my eyes start to get big and I'm like, hey, like they're on TV. Like, guys, sit down.
You're like, it is
Thomas
so I
comes
love
around
watching
really
that.
quick and like he thinks he's on the Jumbotron. And I'm like, it's on NBC. Literally, they told us the camera's on the other side. So you see them all sit down and Christie's like going like this and Mike Tirico's like, sit down. But it was
He literally yells, he's like, sit down. There are celebrities here.
yeah. So
And it's so funny watching that too. Watching you is hilarious because you're just like, you're aware of all of it. You're
yeah.
aware of like me not listening. You're aware of it going on behind you. And then when we all stand up, you're just like, you're just so mortified.
Yeah.
You're like, what's wrong with you?
My eyes
They
get
were
big.
talking
Yeah,
to us. They were preparing us.
yeah, yeah. So
Well,
it is
I
what it
was
is.
worried about Jason. I am justified. I wanted Jason to have just complete peace for his skate.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Whatever. It's a moment. It's a moment to take away from there.
This is it's the best souvenir, honestly. Even like it's something that like I can always go back to. Like I could be like 80 and just not remembering so much of this. I can look at this video and be like, oh, that was me. I'm such an idiot.
and my big head in the way of the camera on when they.
Oh, I feel bad for Josh. He's the one too that's blocking everybody and like in most of the view of the camera, and he had no idea.
That's
Like,
all. Yeah. Oh no.
look at
Yeah.
all
You
this
can
stuff.
tell. All of you. Like when I even told you, it took you guys a second to like click. Like he is on the microphone on TV. Whatever. It is what it is. That was like an added bonus. But
It really was. I don't know. I don't know why that's what I keep going back to, considering all the cool moments. Even like beyond Brian Bartano saying you two are such nerds, like, but in like a fun,
yeah.
positive, like
I
friendly
mean,
way.
I'll say
Like
it too. Like on the first
we
day,
are.
he asked me all of the rules about the pairs.
They
And
really, yeah, right, right.
he's like, "You're an encyclopedia." So then, what ended up happening is everybody, these really famous people in skating, they're all like, "Oh, you're Tony. You're the encyclopedia." I'm like, "Oh my god!" But there could be
You really
worse
are.
things. Like
I
literally,
just,
Boitano was calling me an encyclopedia. So that was nice.
oh, it was that like I think like doing ice dance calls live with some like high level officials really cool too, and like discussing them as it was
I actually, and I
happening.
sat next to Massimo Scali for the men's free skate, and
Ooh, okay.
he's an amazing choreographer. So I'm getting like he's very nice about everything, but I'm getting a little glimpse of what he thinks about the programs. It was everything was exemplify, like everything was just such a higher level. It was really a truly an amazing
Right,
experience.
and that's what I want to say to anybody. It's not like this was super intentional. It was kind of again, we just kind of lucked into it, and then Tony knew some people already, so it just kind of all flowed from there. But other people will be in this situation. I hope to be in this situation again. And the only reason I want to mention this is just to give that advice of just be cool. Just talk to them like they're people. And it can be easy to sit there like some people around us who are just kind of like, and just putting cameras right in their face. And you
Yeah.
know what? No, just they're happy to talk to you. They really are.
They're happy to talk to true
They
fans
really
and
are.
know what you're talking about and you know your history. They love talking about the sport, obviously. They're
Hmm.
still watching.
ISU too. ISU officials too, not just skaters. ISU officials too. They really do. And they want to hear from you as a fan. They want to understand what you think too. I would say, like in all my years of attending events and watching skating, I've only ever experienced two ISU officials or just people in general who were ever rude, right? But it wasn't even like just to me. They're just rude to everybody. So, just again, I don't want folks to think that like it's super scary. It really isn't.
No.
Yeah.
We have a passion, obviously. We go above and beyond. I love that.
Yeah.
Essentially a historian now. I'm putting all of the video clips I can find up on the internet. There's a lot
You're
that I
not
can.
kidding.
Yeah. So um it was a great experience. And now, we're both talking about going to Worlds next year. I'm for sure.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, Prague, yeah, 100%. Make it a 2-weeker. Why not?
Now I'll just hopefully, start traveling to all these events more often. And, hopefully with that we get the skating to come back to where I would like it to be. And yeah, that's it.
And just even with that, I consider all the changes, the ups and downs, changing the system, and we're all still here. Even if it
Yeah,
doesn't get to a
no
place where we
matter what, I
want,
can
we're all
complain
still
about it.
here. I'm sure we'll be here in 10 years complaining about different things, but
The
still calling it
queue,
out.
the queue, there's something that's
Right, right, right. Oh, we never talked about the cube.
the
Maybe
queue
that'll
needs
be
to go away.
next
Yes, we're
time.
gonna say this
It's
really
not
quick.
real.
The queue needs to go away. It's not real. It's the definition is exactly 90 degrees short on the landing. Somehow some skaters do this 7 times in one program. It beats me how they get this, but that's how we'll end it. The queue needs to go away. That's it. Next year, that needs to be one of the first rules. It's either under rotated or it's not. All right. So we talked about a lot. We went
Oh,
through.
wait, no, I'm looking at this. It's like 2.5 hours.
Yeah. In the first video, we talked about the women's competition, our overall thoughts about Boston, some of the things that they did differently for this competition. Second video was pairs and ice dance. This video, men's recap, and then a very lengthy discussion about all the rules that we think they need to change, how to make the sport better. Hope you've enjoyed it. Our experience at Worlds was great. My travel back home was a disaster. Um, but I had the best time. Really, I had the best time. Thomas
Yeah,
is equally as nerdy as I am, and we really we
it really
made
was. Yeah.
the trip. We made the most of it. So hope you enjoyed watching. I'm going to do a lot more videos in the future. Thomas is hopefully going to be here for me for most of
Yeah.
these recaps. Hopefully some skaters come in and talk with
And,
them.
and I'll put this out there too, if you all have some ideas too about, it's the off season. We've got World Team Trophy coming up, but after that, it's that lead up to the Olympic season. And, one of the things that I really want to put out there is what do folks want to talk about? What do they want us to talk about? Especially with the coming Olympic season, I feel like there's a lot of unknowns up in the air. We kind of have some clear directions of where certain competitions are headed, like Ilia is the clear favorite, for example. But are there surprises in store, especially with, possible Russian skaters coming back? So, there's a lot to unpack.
Yeah, let us know. Hope you
Yeah.
enjoyed it.
All
This
right.
is Skating Session. I'm Tony
Yep.
Wheeler.
I'm Thomas Vu.
Thank you for watching.